Street Talk for this week. What have we got to talk about this week? Monday's episode was great, wasn't it? Didn't you like Monday's episode with the bidding war? Great stuff. Wasn't so great after that, I thought. But let's find out and talk a little bit about more what happened.
I got really mad about Wednesday's episode.
Gemma got it. She was irate on Wednesday's episode. Fine. Get ready for a Gemma rant incoming, everybody. We're gonna the thing about Monday is that it kind of took in it's almost just one story with a tiny few bits of other Johnny stuff in there, because it was everything that was going on with the bidding war, which drew in the Ray side of things, but also the Platts and the Gail and everything side of things, which obviously separated back out again on Wednesday.
Little did Tracy and David know it wasn't a bidding war, it was a biddy war, and Gail won.
So
that was a very ageist joke.
But it's so ageist. So I've called the bidding part of the storyline. Now you have to remember Dara O'Brien's excellent panel game show about video games, Go 8-Bit, to really understand this pun. But I'm calling this one Go 8-Bid. You get it, everybody? They were bidding on number 8. And then we've got the Ray Gone Away story. We've got the Lovely Gay Dead story after that. And then we finally get on to the rest of the stuff of the week. The Johnny Jailbird Size Supplies is now going to be my Simon Doing a Drug Dealing storyline title, which also had Leanne and her moon gazing at the end of today's episode.
Moon gazing?
Well, the medium was called Crystal Moon, apparently.
Oh, right. That reminds me of a girl at my mum's school who used to be called Crystal Knobs.
Really?
Yep, that was her real name.
Wow. And then we'll have the Ty's Heads all in a spin. And finally, the Paul Over storyline was back again today with a blender. Or was it a juicer? I think there was some hot debate about that on Twitter this evening.
Oh, really?
Yes, apparently so. What do you
mean?
Was it a blender or was it a juicer? What would you call it if you can make...
They're two completely different things.
Oh, what was it that Billy had?
Well, what did he describe it as? I don't know.
But you saw it. It was a thing that you stick fruit inside and you make juices out of it. Gemma was also half cooking dinner when we were doing this, sorry.
Can I explain?
It doesn't matter.
Can I explain the difference? A juicer is a machine that removes the pulp from a piece of fruit or vegetable and only gives you the juice.
Yeah.
A blender or a smoothie maker grinds up the entire piece of fruit or vegetable.
I think it was one of those.
And you have all the fibre and the gunk is all left inside.
I think it was one of those, but I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's talk about the Go 8-Bid story first. Can I do this one? Because I did enjoy this.
Well, you wrote the notes, so I thought it was quite
fun. So we find out on Monday morning that David can't get a mortgage for number 8. The application's been denied because of the sinkhole, so he's in a bit of a hole himself. He hasn't got enough money to be able to get this off of Tracy. Steve has got back from his walking holiday. He's back for one day, and then I don't know, he just wanders back off into the wilderness again from Wednesday's episode onwards. But he hadn't heard a thing about Tracy's plan to get number 8, so he's understandably shocked about this. She's doing her best to persuade him that it'd be a great investment if they move into the Maisonette. But yeah, he's not so sure.
I again find the money situation of all the characters on Coronation Street, pretty much most of the characters, baffling beyond belief.
They either have just the right amount of money or not enough money almost,
I understand,
depending on the story, or no money and actually there are thousands of pounds in the red, depending on what kind of drama they want to eke out of it.
So they've sold the flat above the
yes.
hairdressers.
Yes.
And the florists. No, the taxi.
No, the taxi.
Office.
Yeah, the streetcars has been sold.
So they have money. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But why do they not want to buy the place that generates money back? I mean, logically speaking, no, you wouldn't want to buy it back because the stupid thing on Coronation Street is that everybody owns the property that they work in, which doesn't happen in real life.
Well, it seems to me that Tracy just wants to... she's just got her eye on this house and she wants to move out of the grotty terrace that she's been in. Although it was only a year or so ago where she was going, we need to take this, we need to get it over. They were fighting for it against Carla and Peter, weren't they? And Tracy was saying, this is my childhood home. And she's like, screw that.
It kind of makes me laugh because she's in like almost exactly the same situation as us, but I think she's being ridiculous because she's like, listen, I know literally it adds like 2 rooms and a garden and it's over the road, but I need this house. We have to have it.
I want to go and live next door to the place that I killed Charlie Stubbs, just for the memories.
Because I like the layout.
Yeah. So Audrey, meanwhile, we find is booking a Caribbean cruise. She's just getting away from it all.
Good idea.
I know. This was our honeymoon Caribbean cruise, wasn't it? We would highly recommend it, Audrey. And she's also.
Will tell you what, it was really expensive.
It was, but she also gets to eat at the captain's table, which we didn't do, but we did have a chef's table experience, which was quite something. If you know about my
Michael
general
hated every
fussiness,
single course. It was hilarious.
It was like the most. The best experience on board. It was such a privilege to be able to have it cooked by the head chef. There was only a few number of people, and they were giving me all this weird stuff.
You had to eat
like a crab salad.
You had to eat a crab salad, and it was hilarious because Michael doesn't like any form of seafood or fish or anything, and will not eat it. And he had to walk through the kitchen. Do you remember? We got given this little cone of seafood salad, and you were like, oh. I took little bits just to be polite, and I'm sure you're very proud of me, but you just found it too hilarious to be mad at me for turning up my nose at it. Well, you managed to not be rude, which you normally are very rude about food.
Yeah, it wasn't my favourite meal that we had on there, but I'm sure Audrey will have a lovely time.
But yeah, I just want to say again, we're not going to talk about how about the fact that COVID exists and there's no way that she would be booking a cruise. I can't. That's not interesting to talk about over and over again.
No, there's so many things that happened today that wouldn't have happened at the moment. I don't care.
Coronation Street has made an editorial decision to ignore the reality.
Well, to not try and predict what's going to happen 2 months plus in advance.
I honestly think that's the best.
Yeah,
move.
So do I.
So I don't care. No. I know that some people find this very irritating.
They refer to it sometimes.
And they take their
Ray
masks
made a
off,
mention to lockdown today.
So.
Right, Shona reckons that David should maybe try and get some of this money off of Audrey that she's going to use for the cruise, and he's like, no.
So they sold their house for £90,000, I think, and I think David has got £70,000 from the sale. So I can't believe that he'd paid off 70 grand of a mortgage and he only had 20 grand left. I think, considering how much money gets thrown around all over the street, you think he'd just quickly pay that 20 grand and have his mortgage paid off. But anyway, I think that's where they are. But the situation is that now he can't get the mortgage for the 20 grand because of the sinkhole. Don't ask me why he couldn't just get a loan, because I think you could probably get an unsecured loan for 20 grand.
Did they mention that? I don't know.
But now the problem is that it's going to go up for auction because he couldn't pay for it outright. So the guide price, I believe, was listed at £110,000. So he's got to try to raise considerably more money than the £90,000 that he originally sold the house for.
You've remembered this very well. I was just caught up in the drama of who's it going to be. I didn't really pay any attention.
I don't know any. Maths leaves me completely cold, and I can't deal with most of it. But if you say numbers that have got pound signs in front of them, suddenly I understand and pay attention.
Shona finds out from Audrey that the reason David's maybe a little bit hesitant to ask her for money is because of that whole stealing thing that happened a few years ago. And they're all cool now, of course, but she doesn't want to make any grand financial gestures.
I really like this.
Financial gestures, maybe it should be.
I really like this because Audrey was like, look, no hard feelings, but I'm not putting my neck out for that.
Yeah, too again. Right. He was lucky that she forgave him.
She's totally right.
Yeah.
But she goes back on it in the end.
Steve tells Shona that if they had the money to raise, then they wouldn't bid against them. If they had the money to pay for it, then they wouldn't bid against them. They'd let them have it because he understands that is their home. And Tracy says, "Shut up, Steve." She's got her heart set on number 8 now. So Shona calls Tracy a nasty, selfish cow, and Steve's spineless for putting up with her.
Well, basically,
and Tracy gives a look of triumph. She's like, well, I've had worse, love. Is that the best you can do?
I think Steve's point isn't that we're not going to try and buy it off you. It's that we know you can't afford it anyway. So what's the point of us not? I think that's what Steve was trying to say.
He's been taught round to the idea. I think he's just laid down and let Tracy walk all over him, basically.
Well, he's obviously completely flush.
Yeah. So Shona comes up with a plan. She happens to see an electrician cutting wires and fiddling about with that box
I
round
don't
by the
think
side of the
electrician
rollers.
was cutting
She
wires.
has an idea. What could it be? So this is when we cut to Tracy in number 1. She's got a laptop on. She's all set to bid. There's no other bidders. Everything's going great guns for her. They're going to get this house.
This honestly was the most interesting. Like this, I don't understand why this was so interesting.
No, not do I. But
it was,
especially because the outcome we
obvious.
predicted last week. I mean, we didn't know it was going to happen, that Gail was going to be the one that got it. And all the way through this, I was thinking, neither of them are going to get it. Clearly, none of them are going to. But I was still really, really excited by it.
I think it's because it was an unusual thing. Also, it involved strategy because they were trying to work out from the other bidders what they were doing and what they were thinking and how much money they had. And
I think it was also the characters that were involved as well.
Yeah,
and then,
all vindictive.
Yeah, and then every so often people would come in and Nick's like, I can give you another £1,000.
Yes,
or Audrey at the beginning comes into the factory and she says, oh, okay, I will lend you the money then.
Yeah.
And
the other
says,
thing...
I'll get bidding before Tracy Barlow gets her hands on our crown jewels. As if Tracy hasn't got her hands on David's crown jewels once before.
Yes, exactly. I also think it was a really, really clever way of having conflict between characters that was just naturally socially distanced.
Yeah. It was really Monday's episode. Honestly, I can't speak any more highly of it.
And also the other thing is, I think everybody who's been on eBay can relate to the process of being in a bidding war for something and just going like, oh damn it. It's like, it's just slightly more than I was going to spend, but I can't let it go.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
So, Tracy gets this message ding up that there's a new bidder, which is obviously David throwing his hat into the ring, and then this very unlikely looking connection lost message pops up.
Well, there were quite a few bids before then, weren't there?
Yeah.
But then they lose the connection.
They lose the connection. This is Shona cutting the wires and cutting off the internet to the whole street
with a shovel.
With a shovel, yeah. We didn't get to see her doing it, so we can only, just go imagine how she managed to achieve this. Are they all on the same internet provider?
I don't think it matters, because the hardware belongs to BT, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when we used to have...
But does ours, because we're with Virgin for our sins, and we've got our own little special fibre optic wire going into our house, haven't we?
I don't think that Weatherfield has fibre optic.
Somebody on the I think Navdeep on the Facebook group asked what exactly Shona did to make everyone's Wi-Fi go off, and I suggested that maybe she had switched them to Virgin Media, because that usually will do the trick. If you want to give somebody dodgy Wi-Fi, just set them up with Virgin. Dreadful service.
This is slander.
Anyway, this connection loss message pops up, and yet again we get to see the odd operating system that everyone in Weatherfield seems to favour over Windows or...
This is a parallel universe where Bill Gates never lived.
It's in a parallel universe where everybody's computers is an extremely low resolution and the font size is, size 30 for everything. Connection lost. It didn't just little bubble pop up in the corner of the screen. We all need to know.
What normally happens is you just try to load something and it doesn't work, and then you look in the bottom and there's a big exclamation mark over where your Wi-Fi thing should be.
Yeah, I thought it was usually a little circle with crisscrosses in. Anyway, their connection has been lost, and it takes them a good while to think, what could I do now? So whatever internet service they're usually on in Weatherfield, no wonder everyone's on it. It never goes off, because the moment it does, it's like, how on earth else could we get internet?
What was that broadband service that kept advertising it and saying that they were northern? And
that's PlusNet.
Yeah,
they're probably all on PlusNet. That's what my dad's on.
Oh, PlusNet, it's from up north, so you
can rely
on it. Not like that fancy southern internet that's all flighty and don't even turn up on time.
Anyway, so Tracy has not yet thought about using her mobile phone to get on the internet. Neither has David.
They don't know how to use hotspots.
There's no idea. She comes out of the house and sees Shona with a shovel over her shoulder walking proudly down the street, which I thought was a brilliant shot.
Yeah, Shona's hilarious.
She tells David what she's done. Obviously, she doesn't know that David is joining in the bidding war now, so David's mad at her. And then Nick comes up with the idea. Nick, everybody, is the one who realises, hang on a minute, we can get internet on our phones. Have you ever set up a mobile hotspot, David? And he has to explain to David. Surely, David, is it just me?
Can I just
tell you? Doesn't everybody know how to set up a mobile hotspot? Or is it just us who always have to do it because we've got rubbish internet? Yeah.
You've mixed a lot of this up, because now you've got the bidding war starting and David's starting at 115,000.
No, I haven't. No.
Because once the...
Yeah, I did. That's what I thought. The bidding war hadn't started before. It was just about to start, and then it goes.
Oh, that's
off.
right. Because Shona's like, "Yay, everybody!"
Yeah. So nobody has bid at the moment.
Oh yeah, I was confused.
Steve's trying to prise Amy's phone out of her hand because neither his nor Tracy's phone will connect to the internet or something. But anyway,
maybe
never
they
mind.
Don't, listen,
never
Michael,
mind that.
Maybe they don't have very much data.
They're back online again.
Well, did you say Amy says?
So she gets first dibs on the bedroom. She'll let him have her phone. So bidding commences. David bids £99,000 and Tracy's like, I bid £100,000.
Yeah, and I think Steve's like, why are you going up in thousands? Go up in 500. And she's like, no, babe, got to let them know we're serious.
Meanwhile, Abby is over at the Bistro visiting Debbie. And she can't get this whole Ray murdering thing out of her head because at this point she believes that Debbie has done away with old Mr. Crosby. Mm-hmm. And Debbie says that I nearly handed myself in last night. Honestly, it's difficult for me too.
Oh, it's doing me head in.
Yeah. So, bidding war. At this point, they're now at £115,000. Tracy bids more, so does David. And before long, David has reached his max limit.
Yeah, because he's good. Because Audrey lets him know exactly how much extra she can.
He's actually properly set himself a limit, but she knows he can't go over. Whereas Steve has set Tracy a limit, and she's like, "Screw that! I'm just going to keep bidding until I've got it," which is very, very much in character.
There's no way, honestly, that David must have realised there's no way he could win.
No, Tracy was always going to get the,
And Nick's like, I can give you £1,000 more. So he's like, okay, great, and puts that in.
Yeah, but then Tracy just like
goes anyway. Boop, higher.
Oh no, does exactly. Yeah, Steve's banned Tracy from bidding anymore, but she does anyway. 3 minutes to go. David realises that he honestly cannot go anymore. I mean, why couldn't they just like bid £1 or something? Surely
you can only bid in increments of £500.
Oh, okay. David can't go any higher. Slams the laptop closed. He's given up. Tracy then, though, sees the bid go up another £1,000, so we have a mystery bidder. Who could it be, everybody? She thinks it's David, obviously, and so she has been outbid. Steve says, right, you're not going any higher, and switches off Amy's phone hotspot before Tracy can get the chance to bid again.
Yeah, so that's why both of them stopped bidding.
Yeah, both of them thought that the other one has beat them. So Tracy goes out into the street, confronts David, and they both realise that neither of them won. They're both like, hang on a minute, you've got the house. No, I haven't. You got the house. Who's got the house?
Uh-oh.
Debbie walks past. She's got no idea who did it. She doesn't.
She's like, I don't know.
She says she doesn't. Does she?
Well,
I don't think she
Gail,
did know.
I don't want to. I said.
What? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway.
Debbie has supplied the key.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Even though the person who's won does not need the key.
Who could it be? Who is the winner? Who did we say was the winner? Who did everybody on the internet seemingly say would be the winner? It's Gail. She's got the fastest inheritance ever known.
I thought you were going to say she's got the fastest internet.
She has, yeah.
She's got the internet, she's got the cash.
Sky. Yeah.
What else do you need?
She's got the fastest finger in the West. She's click and she's got it. She's bought the house. No, her dad's been, dead less than a week and already she's got all his money.
This Andrew guy, who's the partner of Ted, is obviously super happy for her to take his assets.
No, I think that makes sense. I would believe that. And I don't know, actually, to be fair, does Gail actually need to have the money sitting in a bank account to be able to bid?
I think that David said something to Nick about, are you sure you can give me that because I need to transfer it a certain amount of time.
I mean, like, for example, that we've put an offer in on this house across the road, but we don't actually have... up the road, but we haven't... got the money for it yet because we have to wait for this house.
Yeah, but this is an auction. This is different. This is a completely different. That the auction's happening because it's got sinkhole.
Yeah.
This is why auctions happen on houses normally. It's because they're too risky properties and they can't be mortgaged. Because when you have a mortgage, I'm sure plenty of people know this, but in case you don't know, you are kind of going into business with the bank to buy a house together. Because if you screw up and you can't pay your mortgage, the bank needs to be able to take the house off you and sell it and get their money back themselves.
Right.
So they don't want to invest money into a property that's damaged, that would then be risk for them to recoup their losses.
Exactly.
So you can't get a mortgage on that house.
With the sinkhole. Fair enough. Anyway, I don't think things like time scales for boring paperwork things we really need to think about in Coronation
There's
Street.
a lot of things that don't make sense in Coronation Street. This is just
we just put it in the
pile.
same category of people emigrating.
Yeah.
With half an hour's notice, and Johnny and Jenny just waltzing into the pub when they decide that they want to buy it. It's fine. And Gail has now got the house. She's moved in. She's started unpacking already. And then we get a bit of nastiness between Gail and David, which I didn't particularly enjoy. I thought
David's a little bit of a git, and he's an unpleasant person, but he's not completely devoid of self-interest or cunning and manipulation. And he seemed to chuck it all out the window.
Yeah, because he refuses to apologise for being a nasty little scrote, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then he says that you can jog on. She says you can jog off then. And that's the end of that. Meanwhile, Ray is not happy to hear that the house is sold for less than he paid for it. He's on the phone to Debbie.
I don't think that it was less, but I obviously got my figures
He's not
wrong.
happy about something.
He's moaning. No, you're right. He did say that, but
That's what I thought.
I don't really know.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, Debbie's like, doesn't matter. Nothing we could have done. You just need to sit tight. Before long, you'll be sunning yourself in Turkey.
Hooray.
Miles is there as well with Debbie, and he tells her that Ray's passport is going to be ready tomorrow. And Debbie says he's not going to Turkey. He's going to jail.
Here's the massive flaw
Twist
in Debbie's plan.
What?
Getting him an actual passport.
No,
which is what she seems to have done.
Again,
involving Miles.
Penny.
Involving Miles in too much of the information about what she was up to, and getting Ray a real passport.
Yeah, I just think that if anyone wants to get a dodgy passport on Coronation Street, very easy.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying about whether it's easy or difficult. I'm just saying she didn't need to. She could have just told Ray, "I'm getting you a passport, and I'm getting you some nice matching luggage as well." Ted Baker. Oh, there's a really nice bee themed set from Jules at the moment. If anybody's in the market for buying luggage.
I don't think I wrote down what Ray's new name was that you got in his passport.
I told you
today.
to write it down.
Is it
Robinson
or something?
Yes, it was something Robinson.
I would have liked it if they'd have just given him the same fake name as Phelan and had
Mark
that been
Frost.
a bit of running joke. Alan Frost.
Frost,
Mark Frost, actually, because
okay.
that would have been a bit too close to the bone. Yeah, but also it would have been a bit too close to the fact that they were both shoved in a freezer. So, yeah, he's got his own name.
Oh yeah, Alan Frost.
I
think it would be really funny if there's just a shared pseudonym for all the villains.
Yeah. So before we move on to splitting these two stories up, then it was a really good time on Monday's episode, and it felt to me very much like one of these themed episodes. Whereas you get on Coronation Street, especially on the DVD box set, it's like, oh, this is the episode where, for example, just recently, this is the episode where Jack's on the roof. This is the episode where they all go off to Blackpool. This is the episode where whatever strange situation happens. And this felt like years down the line. This is the one where they have a bidding war.
Yeah.
And yes, it had a few other stories on there, but everything was so centred around this bidding war, and it was all kind of tightly packed into this one episode. I just thought it's going to go down as a bit of a
It hasn't been done before on Corrie, or if it hasn't been done for a while. And the good choice of characters, I mean, a pretty high stakes thing, even though we kind of guessed the outcome. I don't know if everybody did. It would have been more fun if you didn't.
Yeah.
Also,
that's the thing. I mean, I think some of the previews had said there's going to be a mystery bidder, and I kind of wish that they hadn't said that.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as well, that the outcome was very satisfying, even if you saw it coming, because Gail deserves the house more than anybody else.
Yeah, and she wasn't idiot Gail as well when she was there with sort of telling David to sling his hook.
Yeah.
She
had a bit of
I'm a
dignity
homeowner,
for once, yeah.
Gail. Yeah. Is this the turning point? The thing is, we've said that about Gail so many times. Like, is she going to...
I think she at the end of this story, she still managed to get one over on David. And we'll talk about that a bit more later. But I think that's a very promising development.
Yeah. Yeah, so the reason that she didn't have the house originally, it was it was something related to Lewis, I think.
Lewis took all of her money.
And Audrey gave some money to David, I think is right, which is why he became the owner of the house. I can't remember. It all felt a little bit... It's
all very convoluted.
Yeah. But you know what? It
also,
felt to me like it should be Gail's house. I have kind of enjoyed the dynamic of David being the homeowner and Gail being his kind of living cleaner almost.
Lodger,
and a lodger. So what he says goes, and it's going to be great now to have that role reversal, I hope.
Yeah, me too. I hope so as well.
And I think, to be honest, maybe he should move out of his mum's house. They're such a brilliant family unit, and in many, many ways, I don't want to split David and Gail up. The more scenes they have together, the better. Apart from this week where I did think that the nastiness got a bit too much. But,
it became illogical, and that's why it felt wrong.
Yeah, but no, I think in real life he should move out, but for plot and comedy purposes,
course,
keep them together and get Gail back in the owner's seat again.
And in case anybody wondered, why didn't Gail just phone up David and Audrey and Nick and say, "Don't bid because I'm gonna bid"? Don't forget that the networks were down, apparently, and that's why she couldn't get hold of them, even though their mobile phone hotspots were. Don't ask any more questions.
Yeah,
I think that was the reason that they said.
Something like that. And this is only a couple of months after that massive power cut that they had at Christmas as well.
Like, I know.
It's post-apocalyptic in Weatherfield at the moment. It's like the
bad luck they have with the ring roads going to other places.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to the tram
Just before
stop?
we move back onto the Ray thing, I thought that the twist, again, we kind of... I'm not going to say this is what we saw coming, but we really hoped was coming, that Debbie was double-crossing Ray. Because I think up until this point we didn't know that, did we? That she was going to... Oh,
I can't remember.
Report him to the... I don't think that we did. So the moment at the end of Monday's episode where she was like, he's going to jail, I thought, yeah, Debbie. Again, it's a very handy redemption for this character who has been a bit of a villain for the past couple of months, but I love Sue Devaney so much. I'm just happy that they're giving her this chance to stay on the show and be a bit of a better character. Although, will she survive the freezer?
Again, a very illogical plan that she's put out here. We don't know the details of her plan. Well, I think the less that we know, the better, because I don't think it makes sense.
Well, I assume that she's getting all these papers signed by Ray, and as soon as she gets these, I'm thinking. So Ray was arrested at the end of today's episode. Spoiler alert. And I was a bit confused at the time, wondering how did the police know to rescue him? But did she
arrest him, not rescue him?
Arrest him, yeah. Sorry. Had Debbie already tipped them off or something?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. But I mean, if you think about this with any form of logic, you've got Debbie who has been had knowledge of all of the things that Ray has done. Mm. She's in business with him and is therefore, I would imagine, legally culpable for any misdeeds that he's done because she didn't come forward to the police. Mm. I don't think there's a paper that exists in the world that you can get somebody to sign that gives you their business within the second that you have signed it, with no legal consequences for you if they've been found to do anything wrong, because that would just cause so many problems.
It doesn't matter. I'm sure all will be revealed next week.
And also, once she must know, once Ray was arrested, he'd sing like a canary and try to bury her by accusing her of doing stuff.
Yeah, she really shouldn't trust him.
And there's two issues as well. There's the sexual assault stuff and the blackmail, and then there's all of the legal things with the bribes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that they've all just been lumped into one thing, but actually no, because the business side of things, Debbie's involved in, whether she knows about it or not. Mm. And the sexual assault thing is his own personal issue.
Yeah.
So
it
really,
feels like it's just going to feel swept under the carpet.
It will be swept under the carpet, I think. But yeah, this is why I said don't think too hard about it. Just imagine there's a magic bit of paper that you can just get somebody to sign that says you didn't do nothing.
Okay, let's agree to that then. So I'll let you carry on with the synopsising for the Ray stuff on Wednesday and Friday then, and I'll take the Platt stuff for Wednesday.
Kevin was an absolute dickhead on Wednesday. And showed his true colours, which I was quite pleased about, because I've been saying for ages that he's a grumpy bastard who people give too much, leeway to.
Because he's a legacy character.
The first thing that he did that annoyed me was on Wednesday, noticing that Abby was upset and saying, she says it's her time of the month, and he's like, oh, you'd moan at me if I said that to you. Yes, Kevin, I would. Anyway, she goes off to see Debbie, and the reason that she's anxious is because she knows
that Debbie has killed Ray, or she thinks she knows that Ray is dead because of Debbie.
Yes, yeah. And she's like, we should tell Kevin what's going on. And Debbie's like, no, we should keep it quiet, because she obviously knows Kevin more than Abby does, because he cannot handle being told this at all. Mick shows up, so this is gangster Mick, who we saw chucking Ray out of a van the other day. He's also the gangster that Todd was involved in. He turns up again. He's looking for Ray. He's like, he says to Kevin, David and Abby about, we need something to sort out. Need to sort something out with him. Very menacing. So Abby's worried about Debbie's safety. And Kevin, because as far as Mick knows, he gets told that now Debbie's in charge of Ray's affairs. So now Mick's going to be on the lookout for Debbie. And so Abby's worried about her. And Kevin's like, she can look after herself just fine.
Yeah, Abby thinks that she owes Debbie, though, after she rescued her from her drugging experience a few weeks ago.
One would think that Kevin would feel that he owed Debbie as well for saving his girlfriend from... Because he knows that...
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember, but he's also the fact that she's your sister as well. Abby tells Kevin that Debbie sort of saved her when Ray drugged her, so there you go. And he's like, I don't care anyway. She didn't even stick around for the ambulance. And then Abby's like, she couldn't because she was busy murdering Ray. And so Kevin decides to confront Debbie in the bistro. And this was like one of the big problems with these episodes on Wednesday, is that they were not really written. I don't think they were written very well, and they weren't consistent with the characters, and the characters weren't really acting very logically. They were sort of working towards where the plot needed them to go. So Kevin confronts Debbie and says, I know that you murdered Ray. She says, I didn't do it. It was self-defense. She's doing a really good performance. And he says, you need to go to the police about this, and if you don't, I will. And she's begging him not to. He has no sympathy, and he kind of lectures her, but in a really kind of removed kind of theoretical way. Like you might lecture somebody for like having the wrong opinion about I don't know, something like really minor. You know what I mean? Like having a political disagreement about Brexit, like lecturing her that she's got the wrong opinion. Not like the kind of passion. Like he kind of like seems just really disappointed and saying that she's a bad person because she's murdered somebody, not taking into consideration any of the circumstances or what kind of a person Ray is. And you would think that Kevin would be the sort of person who'd be quite vengeful.
Oh yeah,
we know that he's punched people before.
He's been to prison for punching John Stope.
So I don't see how he can sit opposite Debbie and lecture her like a nanny lecturing a child.
Everyone's a hypocrite on Corrie. I mean, we were just saying the same thing about Billy last week, weren't we?
I know, but there's a difference between being a hypocrite, which everybody is to a certain extent, and just being inconsistent with the character's personality. And I think this is what that was. Because also, she has said that she saved Abby's life. And who knows what Ray would have done to Abby if, Debbie hadn't, inverted commas, murdered Ray. Mm. So anyway, he just lectures her a bit. And he says, okay, I'll keep quiet for Abby's sake. Then he goes back to Abby and says, I think Debbie's lying about murdering because of these reasons. And this was kind of clever because he says, she's still talking about him in the present tense. And she was very careful to wait for me to tell her what I thought I knew before she told me the circumstances. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty clever.
It is. I think it's almost too clever for Kevin to have figured that
That
out.
is far too clever for Kevin, but I'll give them a pass. What I won't give them a pass for was the fact that he never went, gosh, I wonder why she would lie about that. He just says something's up and I've got to find out what it is. He has absolutely no idea. He can't even hazard a guess. He's that stupid and intellectually unbothered by having an imagination. So he's like, yeah, I mean, you would think if you had a suspicion, wouldn't you immediately try to work out why?
Probably.
And it also doesn't make any sense why he didn't confront her at the time and say, I think you're lying. Why are you lying to me? I'm just going to say, I thought that was stupid. Debbie tries to go off Abby does go off in the car, and Kevin gets in the car to follow her, and Abby stops him. And he says, don't you think it's a bit fishy that the body's not been found? And Abby says, leave it alone. Don't follow her. You can't help. Which again, why is Abby stopping Kevin from going? Literally, it's just for plot convenience purposes. Debbie's gone to see Ray, and he tells him that Kevin thinks he's dead. Then she says, Mick's looking for you, and he says, it's probably about that £10,000 I owe him.
£10,000?
£100,000. Told you I'm not very good at numbers.
Yeah, but this one had
I
pound sign
know,
in
but it's
front
got
of
a K on the end. He says, I need to get out of here, give me the money and the passport. And she says, you'll get it tomorrow, but you're not getting anything until you sign over your business. Then she goes and sees Miles in the bistro, tells him everything, says, I want you to draw up paperwork. This is the other thing. This is the grand plan that hinges on her being able to provide paperwork for Ray to sign that absolves her of any legal ramifications, gives her all of his businesses, and manages to somehow make him take all the blame for all the wrongdoing. And she's like, can you put that together for me tomorrow, please, Miles? And he's like, no problem. That shouldn't be an issue at all. This is a very standard piece of paper work, actually. I can just download a form off the internet and just get him to sign it. And he says, when am I going to get what I'm owed? And she says, tomorrow, as soon as Ray's got what's coming to him. Miles goes and sees Ray. And this was another bit that was really stupid.
This could have been done differently and better. This was just...
this felt like... I really don't normally single out scriptwriters. There were two different scriptwriters that wrote these scripts. And I just think it felt like there was a lack of experience. I don't know what... I know that one of them's worked on a few scripts and the other, I can't remember what the other one has done. But it just felt very naively written and written to get the characters from plot point A to plot point B without thinking about how actually this would work. You can't just bulldoze your way through a scene without making it believable. So Miles goes to see Ray. He's got these forms already. It's not even the next day. He says, Ray's like, Miles, you know what? We've had some good times together, haven't we? All that crime that we did. When I'm in Turkey, you should come for a drink. And Miles says, listen, mate, I don't think I can go on with this charade anymore. You and I are such good friends that I'm going to tell you what Debbie's planning. Does that make any sense? No, not really, because Miles has been characterised as a person who is very much out for himself, a very dispassionate kind of businessman who's interested in, number one, minimising his legal risks, okay? Now, getting himself involved further in this mess is not the best move. Ray and Miles have never been depicted as being like super busy mates.
No, Miles to me has just been kind of, the guy in the suit sitting at the side of the room while Ray and Debbie have their argument.
And no matter what happens, Ray's intentions are to go to Turkey. Does Miles really want to go to Turkey for a drink with Ray that much? Honestly, that he's gonna jeopardise everything and risk it all going wrong.
I would have believed it more if it had turned out that he was
in it all along.
Yeah, if he was in it all along.
If he had been plotting against Debbie all along, this would have made sense, and I probably
that would have been quite a good twist there. But it just, the way it seemed like he just changed his mind. It's like, oh yeah, we're friends, aren't we?
It took 2 sentences for Ray to convince Miles. Why was Miles so on the fence about this in the first place? He's already done all the bloody paperwork. What paperwork has he got to do now? He's probably a whole nother batch of it. He's a glutton for punishment.
He is, isn't he? He's a workaholic.
He must be. So that was just one of the things that I had problems with on Wednesday's episodes. There's another really bad character bit that I thought was...
From a different story.
We'll get to that later. But on Friday. Now, Kevin and Abby are packing Invisible Jack off for a camping trip for school.
Jack, they just shouldn't mention Jack.
I know.
It's a shame that he can't go and, live with Auntie Pam for a bit, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah.
Or Bill, who...
Go anywhere.
We don't know whether he's still alive or not, but the amount that Jack is being mentioned and the number of reasons that they're having to come up with for why they can't show him on screen.
This is the same thing when they sometimes get obsessed with making excuses for things. Like when they kept going on about where Todd was after we knew that
Bruno had been sacked.
They kept bringing him up, and the same with Chris Fountain. When he was sacked, talking about Tommy.
Where's Tommy?
It's like, you don't need to mention it. You really, really don't. People would just assume that they're just not in it at the moment. It's okay. We understand.
Yeah.
And you only draw attention to it. Mm. The other thing that's
Where's
silly,
Jack? Oh, he's always stuck in his room.
He's
Come
on his
Jack.
Xbox. I've got him a PlayStation 5 now. He won't get off it.
Wish he'd never had that leg off. Then he'd maybe be getting his arse in gear a bit quicker if he had 2 feet.
He's been playing Cyberpunk 2077 this whole time, and he's trying to find out how to change his hairstyle. That's a joke. If you can't get it, you don't understand.
I don't get that reference.
So the other thing I want to say about this as well is a camping trip in February, when there's a storm. I know that they didn't know there would be a storm going on, but there's the difference between camping and masochism. And
what school sends
children in the half term?
Jack still is in primary school, isn't he? So it's not like, come on lads, let's toughen you up to get you Duke of Edinburgh's or anything.
Yeah, I genuinely don't think that the campgrounds are open this time of year. You'd have to be camping somewhere really hardcore.
To be fair, actually, 2 years ago, we did put up, in January or maybe February, but it was no later than that, we did put up a load of tents on the field at our school because we were learning about Ernest Shackleton in Antarctica. So we put up tents and we pretended we were Ernest Shackleton writing there. So maybe they were doing something like that.
You didn't go to sleep in them, though,
we didn't stay there, no, they just
And it was to demonstrate how bloody cold it was, not to sort of enjoy.
And this is the balmy south coast of England as well.
Yeah, this is sunny Southampton. This was silly, but obviously the entire point of it was to supply Kevin with a nice, helpful bag of camping supply equipment, which presumably includes a cold weather clothing that they can use for the later scenes.
And also so that nobody goes, but where's Jack? When, actually no, Jack could have been with Abby that evening, couldn't he?
I don't understand this because presumably Kevin's now got, this is going to be jumping ahead a bit here. Kevin's going to be locked in with Debbie. Where's Jack? What does Jack think's happened to Kevin? And why has he still gone on a camping trip without him?
I don't know, because we didn't see Jack actually leaving.
It's not like Jack's like, oh, well, Dad's not here. I guess I'll go without him. Just jump in the car.
I think that Jack went off to school in the morning, got on the coach and went away to
wherever.
I think
you're right. I think that Kevin said he was going to join him later.
Kevin says, and I can't remember where in the episode it was, he's like, I'm going to be a parent helper on this trip.
That's
just
okay.
Just going to rock up. So I haven't got a DBS. Yeah, I've been in prison. Don't worry about it.
I was going to say, is you had a CRB check? Is it called something different?
Oh, well, there's a
I do not think that he would pass the checks.
No.
There must be some schools where literally no parents can help.
Yeah, and probably I would imagine that Kevin's one of those parents that you don't really want helping out on your school trip. It's like, oh, bloody hell, not Kevin Webster.
Yeah, just shouting at all the girls and telling them they're being pathetic because they're cold in February in a field. Yeah, this was okay. Let's just put that to one side. Kevin's stressing out about what's going on.
He didn't know whether to believe Abby or whether to believe Debbie or what.
About what?
About this whole murder thing.
Oh yeah, because Abby's like, she definitely did murder.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think she did because I've been watching Columbo, and I think I know the clues for when somebody's lying. And he's also worried about Faye because he's saying, look, if Ray is dead, how on earth is Faye going to be able to prove that her side of the story is true?
Because Faye and Gary had their little court things today, didn't they? All off screen.
Yeah. I think this is a bit of a weird objection because surely if Ray's dead, I don't know that there would be...
No, it's what we're saying. I think he's hoping that, you know, that Ray's going to be there.
Confess.
Yeah, and he's going to have to, you know, submit to Imran's hardcore lawyering and accusations, and like Jeff, he would just crumble on the stand. And if he's dead, then he can't do that, can he? What a mess!
Hang on a minute. Yeah, I know, but Faye, Kevin's sort of link to Faye is literally like she lives on the same street, and Abby likes Faye.
Sally is kind of Faye's looker after a guardian.
I just find it kind of unbelievable that a sort of grumpy middle-aged man like Kevin, who doesn't seem to have any empathy for anyone else whatsoever, his main objection to Debbie killing Ray has now become, but what about justice for Faye? You know, I don't buy it, I'm sorry. Anyway, he's like, oh, it's a mess. Miles and Debbie talk about the final plans, and she's got to give him 30 grand, and he's like, oh, where's the money then? She says, I've transferred it already. My plan's going to be fine. He checks his phone, he's
Nothing
like, yes,
could go wrong.
Brilliant, it's all going great. Abby goes into the bistro, and the place is a mess.
Yes, we didn't say that at the beginning of the episode. I was confused about that.
The very beginning of the episode,
they got some workmen doing some building stuff at the front of the bistro.
They were like hammering the front up.
And it turns out that it was raided in the middle of the night, but we didn't get to see any of it.
Raided what?
Shut up.
Raided with a car. It was rammed.
I think so. And it turns out that it was Mick, but I don't think they made that clear enough,
no,
or I
really
wasn't paying enough attention at the beginning of the episode. But yeah, Abby comes in and she says it was Mick what done it.
And she says, Kevin's struggling and you need to do something, otherwise he's going to go to the police. Then we hear from Faye. She's been released on bail, but Gary's been kept on remand.
This is another don't say anything, but the actor who we're talking about isn't in this episode, so let's just talk about them, because they had Faye coming back from her thing, and then Sally and Tim were there saying, oh, Faye was so upset that she's run straight upstairs.
Yeah.
I can't believe that a character who avoids getting sent to jail, and we don't even get to see the episode where it happened. And I didn't get to see them in the episode.
She's been released on bail. It's pending trial.
Oh, yeah.
So Debbie,
she's not been sent down.
Debbie's like, oh, guess what? I'm going to pay for the best lawyer money can buy for Faye, and I'm going to use Ray's money for it. And Kevin's suspicious still, and he says, if she's broke, where's all this money coming from? Can't you work out that perhaps she nicked it out of Ray's wallet after she killed him? Do you know what I mean? Well, where do you think she got it from? She's stolen it off of Ray's dead body. It's obvious. That's not suspicious reason to think that she hasn't killed him.
No.
So, Kev tells Abby, I don't know what's going on, about Debbie. They keep arguing about it, and then he's like, do you know what? Screw this, I'm going into the woods with Jack. So there we go. That explains it. Abby tells Debbie she's worried he's gone to the police, and she's worried about these dodgy deals, and then she's distracted, and then a builder comes up and goes, hello there.
No, he does it. He's got a different accent.
He does do a different
suppresses
voice.
his thick Mancunian
But as soon as I heard him speak, I was like, that's Ray.
Yeah.
So
I think by this point in the episode, and I kind of had hyped myself up for tonight's episode a bit too much because I had a trailer and everything.
You kept telling me things that I didn't want to know.
By this point in the episode, it's like this isn't going the way that I wanted it to be. And oh look, here comes Ray. Just pretend. And I think in other circumstances that could have been quite a fun reveal, but it kind of felt like it was inevitable that Ray was going to turn up there today.
Well, you kept telling me things that I didn't want to know. And I think it would have been interesting to have heard my reaction if I hadn't known that at the end of the episode, Ray was going to lock Kevin and Debbie in the freezer.
I didn't know how Kevin and Debbie were going to get locked into the freezer. I knew that they were going to be trapped in there, and I kind of guessed, well, it's probably Ray, but I didn't know for sure.
Okay.
But then when he turned up, it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, I just didn't quite get the, oh my gosh, sort of reaction that they probably wanted.
Because you told me about this, and then by the time Ray reveals himself, I think it's like halfway through the episode.
Yeah, at least.
So I'm thinking to myself, well, this freezer thing is going to get resolved really quickly then. But that's not what happens.
No.
So Ray's like, haha, here's the paperwork. She reads over them, and she's like, this is all legit. Here's your passport and tickets. What is going on? So why is she like fine with him being there? Anyway, he's like,
well, no, she's not. She's saying you got to watch out, and he's like, why do you know what he saw me here?
But I don't get.
He's very, very confident that nobody recognised his expert disguise there.
So he signed these papers. I presume he's just going to take them back and rip them up after he does whatever he's going to do to her.
Oh yeah, I thought we saw him rip them up, or maybe I'm imagining it. I don't
know. I still find the whole concept of signing something and being able to rip it up, and like the fact you've written something on a bit of paper means anything whatsoever. But okay, we all have to like collectively agree that this means something significant, I guess. So he's like, should we have a drink? And he's all relaxed, and then he says, I know you set me up. And she's like, oh no, this is bad news for me. And then he just chucks her in the sex freezer, which has not been converted to
a sex fridge.
No, it's not a sex fridge.
Well, hopefully not. Otherwise, the story's going to go down a very...
The sex freezer turned into an incest fridge.
Yeah. So this is the sex freezer that Robert and Michelle got thrown into that, or got trapped in that one time, didn't they? Because when they were... It was only like a couple of years ago, wasn't it? When Michelle was getting a bit frisky and decides to seduce Robert in the freezer, and then they get trapped in there.
Yes, and it was an actual freezer.
Yeah, because I think it was Ryan goes into the kitchen, realises that the door's open, and just pushes it to, trapping them in there.
And we had so many discussions about you would never be able to be trapped in a freezer because you have to have a release thing
button or whatever.
And Ray, so this isn't a freezer, this is a fridge.
It is now a fridge. I think once people realised what Michelle and Robert were doing in there, the whole thing was kind of condemned and firebombed and razed to the ground, then rebuilt up again, and they thought, we don't need a big freezer, let's turn it into a fridge or something. Yeah. I don't know. It looked exactly the same, but it was a different set apparently, I've learned.
And there was a handle on the inside and the outside.
Yes, but he
right.
knocked
I know, I'm getting to it. So he says, guess what? Miles double-crossed you. Ha ha ha. I'm going to leave you in here for a few days. That should finish you off. And then he's about to leave her in there. And then Kev pops up with his little dib-dib-dob rucksack on, he reminded me of I don't know why, but the little boy in Up, little scout, like he's off on his trip. Whacks him.
His badges all down his bomber jacket arm.
Yeah, and he's got the frying pan badge right in the middle. He hits him with a frying pan and knocks him unconscious.
It was all a little bit Scooby-Doo, really.
I thought this was kind of exciting. He whacks him on the head, and then Kevin goes inside, oh, Debbie, I'll rescue you. And then Ray's like, you know that you can't just knock somebody unconscious in real life for like hours at a time, don't you? You just bonked me on the head, now I'm back up again. And like, guess what? I'm going to trap you in the fridge, and he closes the door on them.
But before that, can I just say, the other thing that I didn't like about this, and again, it was a script thing, is when Debbie's there on the floor and Ray's crowing at her, and she's like, oh, Ray, you'll never get away with this. And he might as well just, get out his Villainy 101 book and go, hang on a minute, I think there's a response I'm supposed to give to this one. I already have.
Yeah, it was very panto. You're supposed to go, he's behind you.
It really was. Yeah. It really. Yeah, and then Kevin comes in going shh to the audience.
There really are. If I was in charge of Coronation, in any script at all, actually, I would completely ban certain phrases from ever being uttered.
That one gets my goat. That you'll never get away with this, I already have. That
gets
one
used
of my number
several
one.
times a year.
It's awful.
It's too cliched now. What about just a plain old that's what you think, or shut up and die, or something like that, a bit more direct.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're trapped in, and then he whacks the handle off the front as well. I said it would be funny if the door just swung open at this point. There's no closing mechanism inside of it.
I didn't think that one through.
So anyway, the handle's off on the front and the back. I don't know whether the front bit will become important later when people try to rescue them. Like, we can't open the door. We'll just have to leave you in there. So he says, guess what? Nobody's coming till next week.
Oh yeah, that was all very There's so much about this.
Actually, no, he just leaves them, and then Kevin says, "Don't worry, we'll just get saved by someone." And she's like, "Oh no, Kevin, I've told people not to come and do anything in the bistro for like a week."
It was all incredibly coincidental.
I know, but
very,
you have to.
Very
contrived.
You have
to. I know, but you have to.
Mick ran the bistro. Nobody was going to go in there. Kevin turns up just at the right moment.
It's almost like it would have been more convenient.
Clever enough.
If this was actually COVID in Coronation Street, and they were like, "Kevin, no one's coming here. Restaurants are closed till like April at least. We're going to be in here for months." Also, I don't know why I've ordered all this fresh seafood. We should probably eat it before it goes off. So that's a bit of an issue, isn't it? Ray tells Miles that he needs to go. They're in the car together, about to make their getaway, and he says, "Oh, have you got everything?" And he says, "Yes, except your father's prized watch, which I've left in the bedsit," which is probably going to be a clue that you were there.
I tell you what, watches, they're the Achilles heel of Corrie villains at the moment, aren't they? Rick's watch, Ray's watch.
I guess it's about time that men were kind of mocked for their vanity and fashion sense after decades of it being a woman's downfall. So it's his dad's watch. We assume it's a Rolex. Miles tells him he can buy one at the airport if he really wants to, but he has to get there. He goes in to pick it up, and the police arrive. There you go, another coincidence.
Well, that's what I said earlier.
They're probably watching to see if he would turn up. Let's be fair, because it was obviously very quickly after he arrived, so they probably were staking it out. We still don't know. We still don't know why they're there.
No, we don't know why they're there, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, had Debbie already set the wheels in motion?
I
because
assume
if she was like, well, as soon as we do our little exchange of papers, I'm going to have to report into the police pretty quickly if I'm going to be double crossing him. But then she was caught off guard by him bringing the papers over.
And there's no signal in the fridge.
No,
because Shona's had to go at it with a shovel.
So I don't know. Yeah, when the police turned up at Ray's flat, I was like, really? That's a bit of a bummer that he went to get that watch, wasn't it? What would have happened if he hadn't gone back to get that watch? Again,
I'm just going to say that perhaps
contrived.
this will be revealed, that why this happened, and it's going to be something to do with the stakeout. But anyway...
he seems so keen. He was saying, "Oh, nobody saw me." You know, you'd have thought when Ray comes dressed as his, in his super disguise.
Oh yeah, they probably would have seen him coming out. Of his bedsit.
He was very convinced that nobody was there to.
He had a face mask on. I couldn't recognise him.
Well, why didn't he put his face mask on when he was leaving?
When he went in there to get his watch, and the police came in and went, "Ray Crosby, you're under arrest." He should have gone, "It's not me. It's not Ray. It's not me, Ray. It's someone else. Can't you see I've got my face mask on? I just look like Ray." It's me, Alan Frost. So they arrest him on suspicion of bribery. And the rest. Kevin and Debbie are having a little argument in the fridge.
I loved how bribery is what they said. It's
It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot more going on here than bribery, but if that's what you want.
That's the one that we
Wasn't it like, stick. This kind of reminds me about the fact that Al Capone only went down for tax evasion.
Yeah.
So they're arguing. He learns everything that's really happened.
Kevin does.
Yeah.
He finds out about the whole... Well, yeah, everything.
She says, "Listen,
I didn't really kill Ray. Just in case you haven't realised at this point."
I lied. He's like, "Yeah, I know, because you were talking about him in the present tense." Honestly, if I was Kevin, I would have said this to Debbie, because I would be really proud of myself for working this out. I wouldn't shut up about this for years if I was him. It's probably the only time he's ever been smart in his life. Abby's with Sally. She can't get hold of Kevin on the phone. She's like, "Oh well, he's probably just in the woods."
Yeah.
And he's sulking. Ray gets an interview in the police for the police.
Makes it sound like we got a PC job. Do you want it?
While you're here,
we were about to let Craig go. He's bloody useless. So we got an opening.
We got an opening for a useless copper. He says, "No, I didn't do any of it. It was all Debbie." Then they Debbie and Kevin. The final bit we see.
They've stopped arguing now.
Stopped arguing. Bit too cold for that. And can I just say another thing? If Kevin was planning on camping in the north of England in February, I would hazard a guess to say that the fridge is warmer.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I literally think the fridge is warmer because it's not it's not at freezing temperature in there, and outside is freezing at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I was confused throughout a lot of this because I was thinking, no, it is a freezer because it was a freezer 2 years ago.
No, it's a fridge.
And they kept saying fridge, and I was going, no, it's not a fridge, it's a freezer. But I'm now
fridges
fine,
are about.
It's a fridge. They've just turned the dial up a little bit and made it into a fridge.
Fridges are about 4 degrees.
Yeah.
They wonder. Debbie makes a point of saying, how long can a person survive in an airtight fridge? Meanwhile, the fan's kicking on. I don't know what she thinks the fan is doing.
Yeah, I don't think it is as airtight.
It's not an airtight fridge, but I think Coronation Street needs us to believe that it is an airtight fridge. Because if it isn't, they literally will just be cold for a long time and then they'll be rescued.
And we know it's cold because it's blue.
Yes, it's blue.
The colour of coldness.
Yes.
A fridge is really blue inside? I don't know.
I guess they
the light goes
extra.
off when you close it. I don't think they're anything, are they?
No.
Apart from that one bit towards the end of the episode where it went inexplicably pink. I honestly thought there was something wrong with the colour on the TV when that happened. What was that supposed to be representing?
No, I
didn't
don't
get
know.
it.
I don't know whether it was like
in
infrared night mode.
I don't know. Maybe that was just them find the thermostat and it's like, oh, it's getting warm now. How do we show that it's warm? We make it pink.
No.
Balmy.
So
balmy or balmy or both. I don't know, one or the other.
I thought you meant balmy. So I googled how long can a person survive in a fridge.
That's handy.
There's no real answer because I don't think that they let people in fridges to see how long it takes them to die. But
I'm sure that's a David Blaine stunt somewhere.
Yeah.
Or about the magic.
Yeah, it didn't go. They didn't go down well in the UK, did it? So, the key word here is airtight. Now, I think you could survive for a long time in a fridge. I think I read somebody saying you can live for 2 weeks in a fridge.
You're not going to go hungry.
You're gonna get dehydrated if there's no liquid in there. But you can probably just drink the milk out of the mozzarella tubs. Nice and salty.
Yeah.
I think that if it's airtight though,
Kevin's like, I'm not having any of this muck. It's surrounded by all this 5-star food, and he's just like, well, give me some fish and chips. Where's the cans of beer? What
first
wine?
time I ever wished that they kept Marmite in a fridge. Yeah, he would be. He's probably a fussy git, isn't he?
Well, yes, he doesn't like bistro food.
Oh no! Oh man. Anyway,
he just wants a kebab.
So
it's all those years being eating beans on toast for Sally's favourite recipe. Beans on toast, golden drummers, and crispy pancakes is Kevin's staple diet. They don't get any of that in the bistro.
They've probably got frozen
fridge,
peas. Oh no, they don't. It's not a freezer.
No, it's not a freezer.
Be consistent, people. They've got a nice basket of oranges. I saw.
Yeah.
Anyway,
probably fake like the one on Kevin's dining room table.
An airtight fridge. It's pretty big. I literally have no idea. There's probably some kind of equation you can do. But really, at the end of the day, you know that they will last approximately 5 minutes longer than it's going to take them to get rescued.
Yeah, I mean...
Because they'll be like right on the edge of death, and then they'll get rescued, and then they'll be like, if you'd stayed in there for another 5 minutes, you would have died.
I've got absolutely no worries in the slightest about their health from this. They're not going to die. They're not going to be killed off. They're not going to, they might get, frozen fingers. Maybe lose a finger would be quite fun. But again, it's not a freezer; it's a fridge. They're going to be fine, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
And that's the problem with this. I didn't feel really any peril.
And I will say,
I'd avoided the trailer for this episode. And obviously it is still ongoing. Monday's episode is going to be the further adventures of Kevin and Debbie in the fridge. But I don't know if everything the picture, I'd seen like 2 pictures of them in the fridge together, and everything that I saw today was like, the pictures pretty much told me what was going to happen here. I was just like, about it. I want to know from the people that didn't know this was going to happen, was this exciting to you? Because I'd hyped myself so much. The fact that they'd made a trailer for today's episode, and Monday's of course, makes me think that it was supposed to be a really big deal, and maybe it still will be next week.
I want to say something, but I'm afraid it is a bit of a spoiler.
No, okay. Don't say a bit of a spoiler.
Well,
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, then I won't.
No, you say it then.
So what do you want to talk about now, if I'm not allowed to say what I was going to say?
No, you can say it if you want.
No.
Okay, no, we won't say it, but we're not worried about the long-term prospects
but I just
of
think
Devon and Kebby in the fridge. They're going to be fine. They're not going to do an Anne Malone with them, are they?
Maybe I can say something at the end of the episode then.
You can say something at the end of the
episode. I think this was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that freezer stuff, I'm hoping for better on Monday. And I think it was also the fact that it was a Matt Hilton episode made me think, at least, there are going to be some exciting graphics and funny camera
Why
angles.
didn't we
and
get
all
an
that,
orange crate eye view?
Yeah, but there's nothing. If I hadn't seen Hilton's name on the credits at the beginning, I wouldn't have known.
I just assume there's going to be some fun, like, sibling, bonding conversations, and there might be a nice two-hander or something. There's going to be some
I
really...
forgive you, Kev.
I think they're both really good actors. They've got seem to have a really good charisma with each other. They set up conflict really well between the characters. They're believable
brother and sister.
Yeah,
for characters that have had 30 years away from each other.
Really great. So I think the scenes that to follow will be. There will be some interesting scenes, I hope, between the two.
I hope
and that's
so.
What
I
I'm
really hope
to.
so.
But it's more that than going, gosh, they better get rescued on time.
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to get rescued? What do we think?
Someone's going to hear them going, help me, help me, help me.
But there's no reason for anyone to go into the bistro, is there? That's the conundrum. Is somebody just going to go in there? Or are they? I don't know.
I just think it's like they've got food. Kevin's got his bag. It's full of stuff. It doesn't even matter if they have to wait a week. They'll be able to get out.
Yeah, that I suppose in my head it's like I don't know how they're going to be rescued, but I'm so 100% convinced that they will be. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
But the point is that this is mild peril at worst, isn't it?
Yeah, it is mild.
If it had been a freezer...
If it had been a freezer, it would have been less than mild.
Yeah, but if it had been a freezer, I'd be a bit more worried about it, going, oh God, you wouldn't actually be able to survive that. Whereas this, I'm going, how is the fridge supposed to kill you?
What is a bit more interesting, I suppose, was Ray's arrest. As contrived as it was, I wasn't seeing it coming. I suppose it's a nice delaying tactic for the storyline. And I do wonder what's going to happen there, because he's just saying, it was all Debbie's fault.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing about this? Is that I think that many people, and I know for a fact this is the case for some of our some of the people that watch Corrie who are in our Facebook group, everybody was watching this and they weren't going, God, I hope Debbie and Kevin don't die. They were like, God, I hope they don't kill off Ray. He's brilliant.
Yeah, I know.
Like, obviously, nobody's behind him for the sex stuff. It's being a rapist and a molester, no. But that's like, it really bothers me that they even did that with him, because he's such a fascinating character and he's really charismatic.
It feels
and fun
like
to watch.
I mean, the thing is, when he went away into the bedsit and the murder thing, I said, give it a few weeks and Ray will come back and he'll have his last hurrah, like villains do. I mean, literally, on classic Coronation Street on ITV3 at the moment, we're seeing that with Don. Don Brennan's been away for a few months after being arrested for setting fire to Mike's factory, and now he's in his final week. Well, he just died, spoiler alert, from 1997 in today's episode, and we got to see 4 or 5 absolutely fantastic, I would say, episodes of classic Coronation Street, which is Don's last hurrah, where he ends up driving into the viaduct, blowing up in Mike's car. Really, really brilliant stuff. But that's what they often do with Corrie villains. They send them away for a bit, and then they finish them off in a week. So I'm kind of predicting that, this time next week, it could be game over for Ray.
Really, I'm thinking now, what's going to happen is, I think Ray's had a reprieve. I think he's going to be accused of doing stuff. He'll be like, actually, I think you're fine if you look at this paperwork. I didn't do anything. And then maybe he'll get sent down, maybe he won't. But I think he's going to disappear for a good long time and maybe come back as a villain later on.
Yeah, that's what you said before, isn't it? That he was going to take a more extended leave of absence.
I think he might go to prison for blackmail or bribery. I just don't think he'll be in prison for very long. I don't think we send people to prison for bribery for like years and years in this country. I think he'll be in for a few months. Maybe he'll come out at Christmas. I really want him to have a massive rampage, and I want them to wait until they can do it properly with like stunts and a big kind of event TV kind of thing. He's such a brilliant villain. He's way more interesting than Gary, and I really like Gary.
He's definitely more interesting than Gary.
And I think universally people would agree that he's more interesting than Gary. Because I know some people are like me, and they're like, yeah, Gary's brilliant. And a lot of people are like, oh, you've ruined Gary, I used to like him better before. And some people like you are like, well, he's just not scary or interesting.
I do think Ray's a good villain, but I think, and I was reflecting on this after I kind of downplayed Jeff's significance in his character profile the other week. But I think that I've just been spoilt by Phelan, and it's going to take a long time for me to stop saying to myself, yeah, but he's no Pat Phelan.
Yeah,
and that's not really fair on the other villains that come after him.
But I think Ray's got so much potential to be like that. I really genuinely do. I think the actor, is Mark Frost, is charismatic, and Ray has got that nasty streak, but he's also got that kind of joie de vivre of like really enjoying screwing people over, and that is so much fun to watch, whether or not you like the person or not.
I think that they need to give him a bit more depth.
Don't forget
that
Pat
put him anywhere near on
started off as a relatively minor sex pest character who started off with, like double-crossing people in business deals, then sort of became like a rapist, and then turned into a serial killer. And you can follow the same trajectory with this character, and it is possible that he could come back and start bumping people
I don't
off.
think that Ray Crosby is as chilling or intimidating as Pat Phelan was when he could switch. I
do agree with that.
When he would go dead-eyed, he
is terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying, and Ray is not.
I also don't think Ray would be as likely to get his hands dirty.
Yeah, very true. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't go climbing up in and dunking 2 dead bodies into blocks of cement, would he? In the middle of a storm at night.
And I also don't think that Ray would be like, "But what about my soul?"
Yeah.
But if we're talking plain old body count, I think Ray's got potential. I mean, he's had a go at killing Debbie and Kevin in a fridge.
Yeah, he could. Yeah. Pat had the concrete twins, and Ray's got the ice lolly twins.
I mean, if you think about it,
the popsicle twins.
He's shown that he doesn't care if somebody dies or not.
That's true, and I don't think we'd really seen that side of Ray before.
Yeah,
we'd seen him gag his accusers, but never go this far.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that they're going to kill him off, but I honestly would not be surprised if this time next week the character is done. If
he doesn't get killed off, he's not done.
Right.
He's not going to prison for 20 years for slipping somebody 20 grand.
No.
To build a hotel where it's
depends
much
whether
needed.
All his other crimes suddenly, cascade out. So let's go back to the David and Gail stuff.
I suppose he's still up for Faye, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So lovely gay Dad. Gail is organising Ted's funeral on Wednesday. So she's got her new house. She doesn't seem particularly keen to invite David because of this spat that's going on between them.
Let's just reorientate ourselves. So we're back with the Platts. David has just lost the house to Gail, who's saying, "You beg forgiveness or you're not coming in," and he says no.
Yeah. He's hurt that he's been gazumped by his own mum, and when Audrey tries to invite him to come round to talk earlier, he's really not interested. So Gail talks to Audrey in the house and says, "Look, I just want us to all go back to how things used to be, except with just owning it. That'd be lovely." And Audrey says, "Well, maybe you should be the one that says sorry." And Gail's not very keen to do that either. So Audrey and David have another chat later in Speed Dial. She tries to get him to... She was just trying to get anybody to say sorry on Wednesday's episode so that they could, draw a line under it.
Well, she says, basically, you're the one that's losing out here.
Yeah,
because you're living on the
Dog and Gun estate.
Yeah. You don't want to live there, neither does Shona, neither do the children.
I know, for his family's sake, he really needs to just swallow his pride and say sorry to his mum, doesn't he?
I mean, this is the other thing about Coronation Street that I was kind of hinting at earlier, and I actually went onto Google, and I was like, what is the working class? Because really, at the moment, like in society at the moment, lines are really blurred, and I guess one of the things that I took away from what I learned was that pretty much if you identify yourself as working class, you kind of are. because there's no real set definition anymore. And my point is, I think I saw somebody on the Facebook group saying, I thought that Coronation Street was supposed to be about common working class people. And that's what it's always been billed as. It's certainly how it started. But now we're at a point where you're watching characters who own their own business, which is really a disqualifier, I would say, of being a working class person, because you're supposed to be selling your labour and not profiting from that, just selling your time. That's sort of the definition traditionally of working class. Lots of them own their own businesses. David's got what did he say? He's got tens of thousands of pounds in the bank now. Steve and Tracy have £130,000 to buy a house outright with no mortgage. You've got David and Shona refusing to live on a council estate because they think they're too good for it. Working class people do live on council estates.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a weird... Coronation Street's always been slightly like this, where there's definitely always has been kind of an implied lower class, because that's what Hilda Ogden was when she came in.
Oh, yeah, I mean, she was just impressed that they had 2 taps in the kitchen sink when they arrived at number 13.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting, because I do think that, I also feel the same way about it sometimes, because I feel sometimes like I'm working class and sometimes like I'm middle class. I really am not working class, but I don't own my own business.
No.
And I come from very working class roots, shipbuilders and miners and stuff. But you couldn't describe me as that anymore. But it feels uncomfortable sometimes to describe yourself as middle class. But also you feel like you're kind of appropriating an existence that doesn't belong to you if you say you're working class. But yeah, my point is that Coronation Street is just kind of lost a bit. I don't like how snobby they get about estates, and I know that I'm really snobby about estates as well. But I just think that because I lived on one when I was a child, and I would never want to go back to one because I found it really scary.
Yeah.
But I just think that
who is the most working class family on Coronation Street at the moment? Probably Gemma and Chesney, aren't they? But even then, they were having thousands of pounds thrown at them this time last year for their Freshco's deal.
It's really difficult.
I suppose,
the thing is, I don't think it's difficult to create a believable story about working class people.
No.
But Coronation Street makes it seem like it's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, definitely back in the early days where Ken was writing his newspaper articles about all the beer swilling morons that he lives alongside, he had a point there in that he was definitely...
He was more educated, and I think that was one of the big key things that's changed in how do you define what working class is, and also in society in general. And we are much more educated than we used to be. But I remember when Tony Blair was saying, I want 40% of the population to have a degree or something, and I was at the age where I was going to university at the time, and I remember thinking, you're devaluing what a degree means. If everyone's got one, how is it more valuable? And we've got to a stage where everybody's got a degree and it doesn't actually help you to get a job anymore. But that's a completely different subject. But I just thought I'd bring this up because it is really interesting how estates and people who live on estates are portrayed in Coronation Street as being sort of villainous, kind of very untrustworthy, criminal kind of types. Nobody who lives on a estate is kind of portrayed as a sympathetic person. It's where the bad people come.
I wonder what a brand new soap opera, if they set one on an estate like that.
Well, there's been lots of television shows that are set on estates and do concentrate on people like that. But Coronation Street, I think, tries to pretend that's what it's about, and it isn't.
No.
It's about what middle class people who are quite often incredibly wealthy, actually, by average standards. Most people don't have money in the bank. Most people do not have
quite
savings.
Nicely dressed and made up and
coiffured. That's a different thing. But they all, for some reason, live in terraced houses.
Yeah.
That and well beneath their means, for apart from when you're talking about eating every meal in a cafe or a restaurant.
Go to the bistro every other night. Yeah.
I think that Nick and Leanne's flat now is the only kind of believable living space. And the other side of the road, I guess.
Yeah, the Maisonettes are nice. Yeah.
I don't obviously I know that you can have a really big house and terraced houses. I mean, most of them are bigger than our house, so I'm not trying to put them down. But what I am saying is that if you've got 130 grand in the bank, if you're Tracy, you would be looking for somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
So,
I've lost where we are now. Oh, then they had that bizarre dog food scene.
yeah, this was a mistake. This was
David-
Wednesday's episode again. This
David
was silly.
decides that, yes, he will go around to apologise to Gail, with Shona there as his wingman. And Shona suggests, why don't you eat some dog food to prove to Gail how sorry you are?
Yes, and I'm going to say, Shona's like, I've got dog food in my pocket because they don't sell dog food on the estate.
Because I'm crazy, me.
And David only eats this type of dog food.
David the
okay,
dog.
fine, whatever. And then she says, eat this dog food to prove how sorry you are. She's got brain damage and she says silly things. She said this before and it's supposed to be funny. That's fine. David and Gail don't have brain damage, so why do they say, yes, this seems like a logical idea. Thank you, Shona. It is a good job you are here as the mediator.
I did find the actual moment where he's there with the dog food on his fork. I thought he did a good job.
No, he didn't have a fork. He used his hands.
Oh, yeah, he did,
He scooped up a big...
I'm confusing it with the Red Dwarf scene where Lister
handful.
does actually eat out of the tin. He scoops up this handful and he's there, and the expressions that he was pulling on his face I thought was brilliant. I thought, this is a stupid situation, but he's making the best out of it. Is he going to eat it? Is he actually going to eat it?
Was game for this scene.
And it's right up there, and I was thinking, okay, is this not actually dog food? Have they made some fake dog food up or something? Is he going to eat it? And then he doesn't. And it's like, oh, okay, that's over. And Gail says, oh, I'm not going to see you eat dog food, come inside. But
Gail goes, wait, don't worry about it.
At this point I was thinking, this story's just a bit silly now.
It didn't make sense. I guess it was funny, and some people...
She invites them in for a cuddle, and they kind of do apologise to each other at the end of the episode. They're friends again. And he says, oh, by the way, you've got all that money sitting around in your bank account. You can go and fix that sinkhole then, can't you? And do some DIY jobs around the house. So she's already...
She tells him to spend his money on the sinkhole because he's like, one good thing that's come out of this is now I'm loaded.
I don't think she's actually got the right to tell him to fix that sinkhole.
No.
Although, he is living there rent-free. And she does say if she's bought the house with the sinkhole is now her problem.
It's her responsibility, but at the same time, if he wants to live there, I think that's the kind of the price of entry, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've entered no legal agreement. There's no tenancy agreement that they've signed. She can just change her mind and say, if you're not paying for the sinkhole, you can't move in.
So do you think that the sinkhole is just going to be quietly filled in off screen? David's not going to have any money. The sinkhole's going to be almost as if it was never there.
Yep.
Never mention the sinkhole again.
This is going to be almost exactly like what happened when Norris bought Emily's house.
Yeah.
And it was like the exact same situation, except one different person's names is on the deeds.
So yeah, that was...
This was fine. I
didn't really think that either Gail nor David were coming across as particularly likeable.
They weren't being reasonable.
No, they weren't.
I couldn't understand why David had decided that he was going to be petty about this, because he literally was benefiting in no way whatsoever. And like I said before, David is a very manipulative person. He is certainly the kind of person who'd say sorry to your face and then laugh at you behind your back or treat you like crap.
There was just not enough of the usual David sarcasm.
Yeah,
I mean, David and Gail scenes are usually ripe for
Yes,
comedy gold snarkiness, but it just felt that they were being petty.
Yeah, there should have been lots of funny zingers.
There weren't.
And the other thing about it is, I cannot really understand why everybody is being so cruel and dismissive of Gail, whose father has just died. And she's talking about organising Ted's funeral.
He's estranged, it's fine.
But nobody cares, you know what I mean? Like, but that really, I felt like that was, it just didn't, I don't get because I don't think we're supposed to feel less of David because of it, because David's like the golden child of Coronation Street as a show. I just think that I don't get why it was written in. What purpose did it serve? It didn't serve any purpose.
No. And then it petered out and didn't really appear at all on Friday, did it?
I assume that the funeral will take place at some point. Whether or not I don't know why it would happen in Weatherfield.
Yeah. I think Gail's got her money, and that's and Ted's kind of fall on his sword just so that Gail can buy number 8, really. He wasn't really doing anything then anyway.
I don't mind this. I don't mind the story. I just thought that this was a pretty good example of what I was saying about Wednesday's episodes being weak from a character perspective.
Now, the storyline still hasn't finished, though, of course. There's still a lingering fact that Gail and George Shuttleworth are related, which hasn't gone anywhere yet, has it?
No.
They've teased us with the fact that there's some familial link there, but it's gone off the boil a little bit, and something is going to happen there. But I'm not really sure what yet. So time will tell what that means for Gail's family tree. Let's talk Johnny Jailbird. Which also, this week I was thinking, oh, are they going to have Shane Ward in it? And then, go on, bring back Shane Ward. He's got a single out next week. He wants a little bit of airtime. Come on. But they didn't.
I'm kind of glad they didn't, because at this point it would have become a kind of a stupid trope that Coronation Street
kill off
hires
people and then
actors to come back. We've had Jeff, we've had Rana.
I know, it would have been, but it was also the fact that it was a Matt Hilton episode on Friday. I was thinking, if anyone is going to bring back Aidan Connor for some ghostly apparition, it's going to be Hilton.
I don't think that they get to cast demand.
No, I know, but I was just saying, if it had been written in that Aidan was going to make an appearance, he's going to turn around. It's like, let's make that a Matt one, and they did. There's still possibly the potential on Monday, because like I said, this the trailer for this current storyline includes some scenes from Monday's episode. Because after tonight's episode, I thought, I'm going to watch that trailer and see did they literally spoil the whole thing, and then a few things from Monday's episode started happening. As like, pause, I'm not going to watch that. I was honestly 50-50 whether Shane was going to appear on there, and like I said, the fact that he has got a single out next week and he needs to get his headlines.
I don't know if that's gonna...
Well, just have more people talking about him, wouldn't it? And by the way, he's got a single out next week.
Well, it didn't happen. Tell me what did happen.
Is it my turn? I thought it was your turn. Me, you, me. Your turn. You're doing this.
Well, I'll tell you what happened then, and you can listen.
I shall.
On Monday, Johnny has got a friend now.
Yeah, he's got Joe.
Don't get
Joe
attached.
Friend.
He's helping him. He's a nice guy. He's in prison because he was obviously set up by somebody. He didn't do it.
Of course.
Johnny's saying, where's all these cockroaches come from? I don't like them. They're very annoying. Then Johnny and Gary get told by a screw. That's lingo.
Prison talk for guard.
Get back in yourselves.
We learned that when we went to Shrewsbury Prison last year.
I think I knew that before. I think I might have heard of it. I don't think they used the word screw either. There's been an incident. Oh no, Joe's been found dead in his cell.
Incident, that's prison code for suicide.
Well, we don't know if it's a suicide or not.
I think we do.
It wasn't a suicide.
I thought it was.
No.
Oh no, it wasn't, was it? Johnny's
thought upset
it was.
Because he thinks of Aidan. He thinks, I didn't see it coming again. What? No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
What happened?
It was an overdose. Accidental overdose. He thinks about Aidan. He didn't see it coming. He gets very distraught. Ryan's trying to fix the Rover's Wi-Fi, and Jenny's waiting for a call from Johnny, and the landlines are down. And so Maria's in the pub, and she gets a phone call from Gary because he uses a mobile phone, and Johnny only knows the landline, obviously. So Maria tells Jenny about Joe, and Jenny starts to worry because she knows that they were sort of friendly with each other, and she thinks it's going to make his MS symptoms worse, and they need to appeal his sentence. And Maria says, don't worry about it, Gary will look after him.
Because I know he's not a criminal. I know that he didn't actually bash Adam on the head or anything, but he's going to stay in that prison for as long as he needs to be in there.
Yeah.
Fizz is looking after the shop. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
She's really trustworthy.
Yeah, trusty Fizz. Johnny's seeing imaginary suicide investigators now, and the cameras are wonky. And I'll talk about it in a second. Daisy is moaning about the fact there's no fit blokes around, and says, no wonder you're sticking with Johnny. There's no other, no competition. And Jenny gets offended this time. This is the first time it seems like it's actually affected her, how much Daisy seems to be mean about him. Daisy apologises, says, I don't want to see you getting hurt. And Jenny says, I'm touched, but I actually think you should keep those opinions to yourself. I liked her being put in her place.
She did, but then she kind of... There's no follow-up from that later in the week, really, is there? Jenny and Daisy are busy maids again.
So on Wednesday, Jenny's fretting and asks Carla to go, when she goes to visit Johnny, to complain about the horrible conditions he's being kept under with all these mice, cockroaches and suicide investigators. And she's very worried. Gary tells Johnny that nobody else has seen these cockroaches. I don't know where they're coming from. Johnny's still upset about Joe, and Gary's worried about how upset Johnny is. And then Johnny's left by himself, and he sees something, and he's like, "That's not right. It can't be."
I quite liked the mystery. It's just kind of
really,
staring
really
into the camera, what's he seeing?
This is really testing the acting ability.
Richard Hawley is doing a really good job this week.
Meeting the challenge.
I think he's doing fantastically.
He's very twitchy. Carla goes to visit him. His hands are shaking. He looks rough as hell. He says, "I don't think my meds are working, or I can't really see, but I'm fine. Don't worry about me." And Carla doesn't believe him. And he starts to admit that maybe these mice and cockroaches aren't actually there.
And sons.
Am I going mad? Carla says, "Talk to a doctor. I'm not really, can't really give you medical advice."
Although she is Coronation Street's leading expert on hallucinations.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
psychosis and things after her
I'm
little
surprised she bring
little
this
incident.
up.
Yeah, it gets brought up.
So he's like, "No, I don't want to." And then he says, "I saw Aidan," or the back of his head at least. And I don't want to trigger people, so be careful here if you're sensitive. We know that Johnny found Aidan dead.
Yeah.
I just wonder what he actually saw.
Yeah.
That's a very
that's giving me chills.
Sinister and
Literally.
horrible thought.
I'm tingling. Did he go in there and find
We don't know. I don't want to talk about
the
it too
back
much.
of Aidan?
We don't know. We don't know what happened.
I don't
They
want to think
deliberately.
about
I know.
that.
I'm
That's
sorry
made me
to bring it
shivery.
up, but I think it's worth thinking
Yeah.
about how distressed he is and what he doesn't want to say what he saw. Maybe I shouldn't.
No, but just imagine, because he sees the back of his head,
don't
and just
get-
imagine if
be
his
sensitive.
hallucination Aidan turns round.
No.
and
Yeah,
he's-
I know. It's horrible because
Oh.
this is a real situation that people have gone through, not entertainment. But I thought that they didn't belabor the point.
I'd have had to have had Shane Ward come in and do his own makeup.
No. So Carla's like, "I think you've got psychosis," and he's like, "No, don't think so. I think it's a ghost of cockroaches." He says, "Please do not tell Jenny about this. I will talk to the doctor, but please don't tell Jenny." So she goes and tells Roy, and this is the final complaint I've got about this episode, which was
you did not like this, did you?
She goes to see Roy, and he says, "This reminds me of when you were going crazy and seeing things, and you told me not to tell anybody, and look how well that turned out. I definitely think you shouldn't tell Jenny."
Yeah, lie your little heart out, Carla.
He
And they make a point in the script of saying, "What? Honourable Roy Cropper telling me to lie?"
Yeah, he literally says,
Try and get out of the fact that this isn't at all in his character.
"I didn't buy this at all. I would have preferred. I might have bought it if he had acknowledged the fact that it was completely out of character for him and said, I have learned that sometimes when you tell the truth, it causes more problems." Because Roy has always been a character who, despite what terrible traumas and calamities it would cause,
and just the heartbreak. Like he's been brutally honest to like Hayley in the past and really upset her because that's
who he is.
That's who he is.
And he would never, I don't think, recommend lying about something.
No.
And I can't see how it benefits anybody to not tell Jenny what Johnny's going through, specifically when she asked her point blank to relay the information.
Yeah.
I thought that was really bad, honestly. I felt like the scriptwriters did not understand Roy's personality, or they thought they could bulldoze through it because they had to get to the point where Jenny doesn't know what's wrong with Johnny.
They should have probably wouldn't
can't
have been the same, but could they have just had her speaking to Nina, and Nina could have said, "Keep it quiet." I mean, Carla and Nina don't have that bond. I just wanted more Nina this week, to be honest. After last week's triumph with Asher and Nina, and this week cut dead, there's none of it. Any excuse to get that story back in, I'd have said yes, please.
I just thought it was glaringly out of character, and it was taken individually. Most of these things are kind of forgettable mistakes, or like you can brush them aside, but piled on top of one another, Wednesday's episode became a series of really bizarre choices that made me uncomfortable and angry, because I felt that it wasn't a true representation of the characters. And I know that Coronation Street sometimes focuses more on the plots than the characters, which I think is to its detriment. So to see it being done so brazenly with so many people in so many stories was
however possible.
I felt a bit insulted, to be honest. But now I'll stop complaining. I think that's the end of Wednesday's complaints. There might be another one.
What stories have we got left?
I don't think there's much else to complain about on Wednesdays. That's it. So.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say Friday. I mean, whatever Johnny's got, can I have some, please? Because he's seeing cats now.
I know. Brilliant.
They're cute. There's another cat. Brilliant. Little ginger one.
Yeah. Gary says you need to ask for help. And we learn that he's off to the magistrates and we don't know if he's going to get bail. Spoiler alert, he doesn't get bail. We already learned this.
No, we find out that he doesn't get bail because he still lied to the police about...
He's still on remand for something else.
It was just the fact that they said that he perverted the course of justice by saying, it was me what done it.
But that's a court case then. You said he was on remand. That means you're waiting.
I don't know prison talk.
All you need to know is Gary's back in the slammer.
Give Johnny deeds. Oh, excuse me for a little bit.
That's horrible.
Tell you what, I was also going to say what I thought could have happened, because I'm still clinging on to this. I know it's not going to happen now. My theory I made on the predictions episode about Rob Donovan being there in prison. What if Johnny had been seeing somebody and it was the back of his head, and then he'd turn round and we expected it to be Ghost Aidan, but it was actually in the flesh Rob Donovan. He's like, "Oh, Johnny, I've been here all time. I thought I'd seen you." And then
you've been ignoring me this whole time.
Yeah, and then that little story that I predicted at Christmas
will come true.
Come true.
So you want Mark Bayliss to shave his head?
Yeah.
Why not? If he wants to get on Coronation Street, you've got to make some sacrifices.
Yeah.
So he says, Jenny tells Daisy that...
I didn't turn this into a sentence. It's just a load of words.
She basically...
Daisy, you said that she was fishing at this point, wasn't she? She was just trying to get Jenny to say, am I part of the family? And because Jenny says that Daisy feels like she's not really part of the family. So Jenny says, well, let's have dinner with Carla tonight. Me, you and her. And you can get to know us better.
And Daisy says she's going to cook.
Yes.
So Carla and Johnny are on the phone and he's mad at her for making him say to the prison about his condition. And now he's being referred to a psychiatrist. And he doesn't want to worry Jenny. It's all a bit of a faff. And he says, I will tell her myself. Carla, don't you tell her anything. Jenny goes to the factory to see Carla. She finds out that they've had this phone conversation. And she does not understand why Carla's getting to talk to him and what they're talking about, considering they only saw
yesterday.
Exactly what's going on. She's trying to get it out of Carla, and Carla keeps saying, "Don't ask me. Johnny will call you later. Johnny will call you later," which is like a really scary thing to hear from somebody about your husband who you're worried about his health.
Yeah. So
she's like, "Why are you keeping secrets from me? You're horrible. No tea for you."
I did like her delivery of that.
Yeah, basically she's been uninvited to tea. So finally she gets to talk to Johnny on the phone. He tells her about the hallucinations, seeing cats, rainbows, musical notes. I think he's got, what's it called, synesthesia, where you can visualise certain, so like some people, like you say, what did you say to me you've got?
Oh, like when I hear songs I associate them with colours.
Yes. And some people can do stuff like they can visualise in front of them a calendar, and they can move the calendar dates around and kind of look at it like it's kind of an interactive computer thing.
Does anyone else have that thing?
There's lots of different things that you can like associating colours with numbers or things like that.
I think what Johnny was really doing there is saying, I really, really want Michael to make a core emoji of me this weekend with all these, with like musical
cats
notes,
and rainbows, and musical notes.
Rainbows, rats, everything that I'm seeing, there's an emoji of that Michael can put over the top of a screenshot of me. So
the fact he's saying
I'll do it, Johnny, for you.
Cats, rainbows, and musical notes, which I assume accompanying music, so you can kind of see the notes drifting through the air, which sounds really cool and trippy. I just wonder if he's considered that he might be merging into a live action Disney film.
Oh, maybe.
Like one of those like ones that had
maybe
Bedknobs and Broomsticks, where you've got animation and real life.
Yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Watch out for the Nazis.
What?
Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
I've not seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
That's ridiculous. We're gonna have to sort that out.
I don't like the look of it. I've seen the front of the VHS, and it just
I love it
like
because it's got British witches fighting the Nazis, which is like the most amazing concept for a movie. And he sees Aidan, he says, and seeing him's kind of nice. So I guess it wasn't traumatic.
This was a kind of an interesting mini twist that this went to, because he'd been worrying about seeing all these things, but when he starts to say, I quite like seeing Aidan actually, but I can't see his face, it was like, oh, that's kind of sweet. And then this is
I still think it's creepy that he can't see his face. It reminds me of...
It's really creepy. It's like a horror thing,
what
isn't it?
What if he turns around?
What if he turns... Yeah, what would he see?
Like?
It's like...
Considering that he's seen insects...
I'm getting the chills again. It's literally, it's like... Yeah.
It's creepy. Anyway, Jenny goes and tells Daisy about the fact that Carla knew that he was seeing these hallucinations and not telling her. And Daisy says, right, well, do you want me to go and punch Carla in the face for you? Because I will. And she kind of does this little petulant arm crossing thing, which I thought was
Who would win in a fight between Daisy and Carla?
I mean,
back
Daisy,
in the day, Carla would, wipe the floor
Carla
with her.
would, grab her by her hair
anymore.
and beat her to death. But I think now Carla would just cry and let her do it and go, I deserve this. I'm a bad person. So Jenny is distraught because there's nothing she can do. And Daisy's like... Before this, Daisy was saying, right, I've bought all the food to cook the dinner for Carla. Is she allergic to anything?
Yeah.
Well, I hope not.
Left it a bit late.
Yeah. Then we get this guy who's been... There's a man that's been menacing... Johnny. He's like another renter thug, Coronation Street, bog standard, boring villain. Who just is mean for no reason.
He's just been making fun of him and his imaginary friends.
Yeah. And he says, he kind of scares Aidan away from Johnny, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, Johnny just gets upset, saying,
I
can't see Aidan anymore. I feel so bad for Johnny. I honestly, I think that Richard Hawley is doing an amazing job with this. I kind of feel bad that... still the story... It feels like a strange little side story with characters that don't really belong on Coronation Street. And I think the fact that Johnny has been such a minor player in Corrie for the past couple of years is harming this storyline a little bit.
Oh no, I think it's good.
And it almost feels like they're saying, well, we've got to show a bit of this, but we're not going to show too much because nobody's really interested in this, are they, right? It doesn't feel connected to what else is going on in the street to me at the moment.
I think,
but I really I think that he's brilliant. He really is doing.
He's doing a really good job. I think it's kind of not, it's not an issue storyline, but it certainly is highlighting the lack of mental health provision or medical care in prisons. Because I remember when we went on the Shrewsbury tour, Shrewsbury prison tour, the prison officer was talking about how much in demand the doctors were, because they treat not just normal GP things, but they also have to treat people that are going through withdrawals from drugs and alcohol, and so they have to give out all of those things. So basically everybody in the whole prison is queuing up outside the doctors first thing in the morning. I can imagine there's not a lot of time for them, and there's really not a lot they can do really without putting him in a dedicated facility. It's kind of a bit worrying that he's just being allowed to wander around, seeing visions of things. Like, what if
nobody seems to care? That we've seen a couple of guards just standing in the background, haven't we? Just like watching and not.
I mean, I don't want to be
bothered.
I don't know a lot about it, but I think that people who have abused drugs, I do think that they can have symptoms like this. I don't think this is probably anything new that the prison guards haven't seen. And also, they probably get some people who are pretending to have these symptoms to kind of get attention or to get special treatment. And they don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. I mean, Johnny doesn't look like a particularly...
No.
He looks like he's very ill.
Like
and he actually has something wrong with him.
Isn't getting the care that he really should be getting. And again, going on this Shrewsbury tour last year, we really did get a sense that the screws... care for...
Now, I'm going to say this. The guy that took us on the tour was a very seems like a very compassionate and reasonable person who was saying stuff like...
He's in it for the rehabilitation.
I'm not here to judge them. They're here now because they've been found guilty, and our job now is to kind of get through this together. And he seemed like a really nice guy. I don't know what he was actually like when he was a prison officer. You know, you can portray yourself however you like. But he seemed like a really nice guy, and if I was in prison, I'd like him to be my prison officer.
Yeah.
But I don't imagine that they're all like that. And he even said this, that he had colleagues who were very vindictive, because you don't know why people... I mean, they know why people are in there.
Yeah.
So I would imagine there's a sort of a spectrum of sympathy that some people just don't care. And also, don't forget, you must get fatigue. You must get, like, compassion fatigue. If you were like trying to sympathise and empathise with every single prisoner that was under your care and like feeling bad for them, you'd be burned out in a few years. You wouldn't be able to take it.
Yeah, that's true. So do you, I think the other kind of problem that I got with this story is it seems to be a lot of this week was just saying I can see things. He was kind of very one note, it felt a little bit like, until that little tweak about I quite liked seeing Aidan, which was sweet, but all the drama was still going on away from the prison on the street, wasn't it? It's about Jenny not finding out and Carla not finding out. So Johnny's like the least important thing almost in the story, and I don't know where the story's going to go. Is he going to get?
I don't know.
Is he going to get worse?
I really don't. I'm really worried about him, because this is. It feels like they're taking this MS seriously, and I had my doubts as to whether they would do, because they don't have a perfect track record for maintaining somebody's medical problems when they become inconvenient.
He's still got a good few more months that he needs to be in there, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's very sad.
It doesn't feel like a story. It feels like what's going on the street with it related to him as a story, as Daisy's dripping her poison in and trying to get Jenny away. But Johnny's isn't. It's an experience. Let's look at
because we've got this bully, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean,
and so this was all a setup about Johnny, what he's seeing and how he feels about it, and now we've got this bully who's come in, and he is.
Is Johnny going to be like? Is he going to start to believe it more? Is he going to?
Is he going to
attack somebody?
I just think he's going to attack this. There's going to be some kind of physical altercation with this bully where he's going to get enraged because he wants to see Aidan, and this guy's stopping him from doing it. And I just think that's where it's headed.
Okay, but let's move on, because I'm not particularly that fussed by the Jenny, Carla, Daisy side of things. Oh no, I did want to mention about the whole, is there a spark between Ryan and Daisy, because they had that scene where she was saying no fit blokes here, what about you? So maybe keep an eye on that one. I kind of like Alia and Ryan as a couple, but I'm not super invested in them. It's like they're fine, but I'm not,
I said before that I thought that they could end up in trouble together, because that they've been a united front as a couple because they had a common enemy, which was Jeff. And now that's been taken away. I genuinely don't know what they see in each other, because there's a massive... there's a massive
intellect gap, isn't there?
Yeah, and also, what are Ryan's favourite activities? Like DJing and drinking. I don't think... I can't believe that Alia and Ryan share similar tastes in music.
If I was to say, like, if somebody who didn't watch Corrie was to see a picture of Ryan and maybe watch a few scenes with him and then show a little bit of Alia on her own and a little bit of Daisy on her own, which of these characters do you think that this guy is going out with?
Yeah, you'd
probably
Alia.
Say Daisy. They probably could be quite a good match, because they're both a bit...
They're both bimbos, aren't they?
Yeah, basically.
Airheads.
Yeah, but I could see a story where he's kind of tempted over to her and she manipulates him, and
I can see her sort
takes
of
advantage of him.
Also thinking like, oh, he says he's a DJ, and like him inviting her to his set, and it's like in some crap pub at lunchtime, or like her trying to make him. She seems like a gold digger to me, because of how much she seems to be trying to get Jenny.
Definitely.
Trying to get stuff out of Jenny. So I think that she wouldn't last very long with Ryan, because he hasn't got any gold to dig.
That is true. I'm just desperately trying to find some kind of dimension to add to Daisy's character.
Daisy's such a strangely slow burn character, isn't she?
You should dump Johnny. Johnny's no good for you. That's all I've got to say for again this week. But I can cook some dinner. Right, side supplies. So this kind of was Monday and Friday, wasn't it? So Monday, Simon tells Leanne that Natasha is not coming back anytime soon. I think
Makes
we
it
learned that
sound
last
like
week.
he's killed her.
And Nick wants to have, that's true, lunch at the Bistro with Leanne, and she's a bit nervous about leaving the house and everything because she's been hermiting it up in the flat for the last few months.
Like most of us, she's become slightly agoraphobic.
Yeah, so she says, "Look, Simon, maybe we should go together." So they have this lunch meet up, but when Nick turns up, Sam's there as well, and it's a big like da 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 kind of moment. Well, it was for Leanne, but for us, it's just like, oh, it's Sam. That's nice.
Can I say a rude word?
No.
Well, I don't think it's that much of a rude word. It was like, this was like a double date, double cock block, because they both brought their children with them unexpectedly, didn't they?
It basically was.
It's like, neither of you can moan at the other one for bringing your kid, because you both did.
Yeah. The reason that Sam is there is because the school's having a deep clean. I didn't exactly hear why, but I'm assuming it's something COVID related. Yeah. So it's just all a bit awkward there. Really,
you could have said,
Nick and
"I'm
Leanne,
here because I didn't want to go camping."
He offers to give her some money to help her out of her dire financial straits, and she's saying, no, everything's fine, I'm all right.
I think this was a really important line. This is one of those lines that I think sometimes I'm like, oh, they should have just had a line in here that say blah blah blah. This explains why Leanne is not asking for help, and also why Nick hasn't given her any help. I don't know why Nick thinks that she's in a financially good situation or how she's paying her bills, but at least he brought it up and she rejected his offer and she pretended everything was fine. So from that perspective now, Nick is kind of off the hook, and this plot can continue with Leanne becoming even more in desperate straits without us having to keep saying, why doesn't Nick just come and pay?
Simon doing his drug run-in to fund her, because he goes off at the end of Monday's episode to do another job for Jacob, but that's about as far as it goes there. We also have a nice little scene with Steve and Leanne, who obviously have got their dead baby in common. But,
well, this was the first time they'd seen each other for a while.
It was a bit of a awkward meeting.
And they kind of,
you still grieving? Yeah, I'm still grieving too. How are you grieving? I'm going up a mountain.
I've got shin splints.
Yeah, I've got, Well, Gemma.
It's my tip. What?
Yeah, go on. Gemma has got...
If you have shin splints, what you need to do is get yourself onto a step, put the heel of your foot onto the back of the step, so your arch is like the edge of the step is in the centre of your foot arch, okay? Now, take your toes and wiggle them up and down as hard as you can for about 30 seconds. Now, once you've done that, go into a crouch. So stick your bum backwards, make sure your knees aren't going over your toes, and repeat it for another 30 seconds. And then do that 3 times, and then do the whole thing 3 times a day. I had shin splints that were so bad I thought that the muscles on my legs were being ripped off. It felt like somebody had a knife and they were trying to pry the muscles of my legs off. But once I found this technique, you can kind of cure yourself of shin splints in a few days.
Nice tip.
It works.
Health advice from Gemma, everybody. Friday, the story goes a bit odd, doesn't it? Leanne's found a feather. She, I think it's blown in through the wind like that one in Forrest Gump. But
and obviously, as we know, that in Weatherfield, feathers are incredibly rare since Jack Duckworth vacated.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not been a bird.
This isn't a pigeon feather either, was it? It was a nice little fluffy white one. And she thinks it's been sent down from heaven. She thinks it's like a little angel's wing or something. And she thinks it's a message from Oliver saying, chill, Mum, I'm fine up here. I'm all right. You have a nice night's sleep. So she does. And when Simon leaves...
This is like the first time she has had peace.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite sweet seeing how happy she was, especially when we see her on the phone to this...
let's get to it.
Well, yeah, Simon leaves Leanne alone in the flat later, and it looks like she's up to something with the TV, and I thought that she was
doing, buying a juicer.
I thought that she had QVC and she was, shopping her way happy again or something, but no, it turns out that there's this telemedium called Crystal Moon who saying, you're right, that feather is from your dead son Ollie.
Well, she phones in.
And he's fine.
She phones in to the show.
Yes.
And Crystal Moon gives her an on-air consultation and says, Oliver's contacting you. You're right to have interpreted it as that. And if you want any more, feel free to phone me back and I will tell you what you want to hear.
Yes.
Basically. And so...
And Leanne was like really chuffed and happy, and it was horrible. It was because this. I wonder whether the story is going to go down the route that we had not that long ago actually with Rosemary. Hashtag bring back Rosemary. This should have been Rosemary. Of these kind of people are often not to be trusted, and they're just after your money. And the fact that she's saying ring back any time, £5 a minute, please. Yeah, it's fine. It's worth it to get this in a piece. So is it going to go down that route, and she's wasting her money there? Quite possibly. But yeah, the fact that she was looking so happy, the happiest we've seen her in months, it was a bit heartbreaking, really. So I'm kind of interested in how this is going.
I can't see this going anywhere, but Leanne spends a lot of money on Crystal Moon, who is not a real psychic. Than
crystal meth.
Arguably. Who is not a real psychic, because in Coronation Street, psychics aren't real.
Yes.
And they're always
just like in many,
Well, I mean, I'm going to say that I think that some people genuinely believe that they have a psychic ability. I don't necessarily want to comment on whether I think that that's true or not. I don't think people like Crystal Moon are good people if they're charging money. I think Crystal Moon knows that she doesn't actually...
Yeah.
I also think that some of these people trick themselves, because it's a convenient lie to tell themselves, that even if they're not telling the truth, they're bringing hope and comfort to grieving parents. And there's certainly an argument to be said about that, but I don't want to get into it particularly.
It's kind of tricky, isn't it? And what was interesting as well, if you haven't been on, you need to go and find Matt Hilton's Twitter account.
Do you remember what it was called? What it is?
I cannot remember, but it's not going to be that difficult to find. Jim's going to have a look at it for me, because he put up on Twitter after tonight's episode a camera shot that they were going to use in today's episode that was definitely very, very Hilton-esque. It was going to be like merging Leanne and Crystal Moon, like two shots of them, to make it look like they were sat at the table together, and then the left hand of the scene, like the background, was Leanne's flat, the right hand side of the scene was done up. It was I'm describing this really badly. It was two scenes that were spliced together and kind of blurred down the middle, so it looked like they were having this conversation together at the table, and they were close to that in the episode, weren't they? Because when the scene first started, you get a close-up of Leanne looking left and talking to someone. You're like, who's she talking to here? And then you see the medium talking back to her looking right, but you can see that she's in this wispy...
So it was on Twitter?
Yeah. Curtainy background, so she's somewhere else, but they were going to... They
reveal that they were together to symbolise that she has a connection.
I'm explaining this. I couldn't have explained this worse. I do apologise.
So Matt Hilton's Twitter account is @QuarterBlueMatt.
That's it, isn't it? So can you find this tweet, or has he been asked to delete it?
So shall I just read it out?
Yeah.
So he's put the picture on there. And he said, "Here is a shot that I loved, but sadly ended up on the cutting room floor from tonight's episode of Corrie. I wanted to show just how important and personal this conversation felt to Leanne when she was speaking to the psychic on TV. We matched the lens size, camera height and distance to make the two tables appear as one, and then matted the join in post. A great shot that added a strange sense of otherworldliness and foreboding to the scene. Maybe next time."
Yeah, I think that would have been odd. I almost think that would have gone a little bit too far.
I think it might have implied a psychic connection that the show didn't want to insinuate was occurring.
I do get about the closeness of the two characters and everything, and Leanne saying that, look how much of a bond I feel with you, but maybe it's because it's a kind of a new story. It's come out of nowhere. It was a very, very minor story in today's episode. It would have felt odd to have had that.
I also think you could
whilst at the same time you got your freezer drama going on.
I also think you could have achieved a similar effect in a different way, perhaps without... And also, maybe it would have been a bit just as spooky as to have her just in the room with Leanne. Yeah. Sitting at the opposite end of the table going, "Leanne, listen." And then Leanne blinks and she's suddenly on the telly and you realise that she's just been calling her.
Yeah. Do you do you see?
I think that was a really good concept, though.
I do. I think it. Like I said, I don't think it would have fit for a new story, for a C story of an episode.
Anyway,
what did you think about Leanne today? Do you think that her finding this feather and believing it's from Ollie is in character?
I'm not sure. I can kind of sympathise a bit with thinking. I mean, I've done stuff where I've gone, I know this isn't what is happening, but
we've all got our little superstitions.
Yeah, or like just even thinking, Oliver lived in a world where feathers existed, and the feathers are still here, so this world is still got beauty, and he would have enjoyed this. And
I suppose it's also a little bit like that red van scene, isn't it? Where she's looking out the window after he dies and sees the red van drive off, and she thinks that him. And even whilst he was on his deathbed, she was quite delusional about his state of health and the fact that he was going to get better again.
Also, the thing is, once you've decided that something which is relatively common, like a feather, is a symbol of a communication from a dead person, you're going to see feathers everywhere because feathers are everywhere, and it's going to feed into your belief that you're being communicated with in some manner.
I hope she doesn't go too far down the Michelle route and go, that's Ollie's feather.
I just think that
Nick going to come around and help out by doing the hoovering, and then
I don't understand how come she's got money to talk to a psychic on TV, but she can't afford an electricity meter to pay her electricity bills. Whatever she's put this on, she can put the electricity on it.
I mean, she could have just set up a new credit card just because she feels that she absolutely must contact this medium.
I know, but you absolutely must pay your electricity bill.
But I think if you're Leanne, feeling some kind of connection to your dead son is more important than just paying
Yeah, I get it, but this kind of reminded me a little bit of the money woes that never materialised from Daniel's dalliance with lady friend
Nikki.
He was maxing out credit cards and borrowing money off Ken when he had no job, and that still hasn't been addressed, and it's just kind of been brushed under the carpet, and it's unfortunate because it could have been interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like another one of these self-inflicted problems that kind of mirrors things that happen to people in real life, but actually not under the same kind of circumstances as Corey characters experience it. Kind of like Sean's fake homelessness, which was solved by him admitting he was homeless. And one thing I wanted to mention, which I think is really interesting, because I was looking about homelessness on the internet the other day, and I've forgotten what it's called. I think it's called invisible homelessness, or so. There's basically different categories of being homeless, and Coronation Street is full of a category of people who are actually homeless, who couch surf, who don't have any fixed abode. And I think it's really weird that they've never thought of doing a story about this, because actually it's a form of homelessness that is very underappreciated and not really talked about or understood. There's being homeless and living on the streets. There's being homeless and living in a shelter, and then there's sort of living in someone else's house with no real rights and kind of in a precarious situation where you're semi-permanent. It's a form of homelessness. And it was way more realistic.
It's just too widespread in Coronation Street.
I know. I think it would be one of those things where if you drew attention to it, it would be obviously slightly ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Peter and Carla.
Yeah.
Both homeless.
Yeah.
Actually.
Let's move on. Tyrone. His head's Alina spin. This not much happened here, did it?
No, I don't like this either.
Are you going to moan about this?
Is this me reading this?
I've lost track. I think this is you. I think
I'll read it then. Okay, so Wednesday, Hope's been moaning to Fizz about missing Alina. We haven't seen it, but we just have to believe it happened. Tyrone thinks Fizz is making too big of a deal about the fact that Alina's moved out, and she comes to the garage to give her the keys, and Tyrone says, "Oh, the girls are missing you," and she's touched. She says, I had an interview today and I got rejected and I'm really upset about it. And he says, why don't you go back to doing nails? And she looks really upset, and he doesn't get why until Fizz says, perhaps the fact that she was being trafficked as a slave and was forced to do nails.
Maybe brought back a few bad memories for her, Ty.
So Fizz brings Alina home specifically for Tyrone to apologise to her. And she seems pretty cool about it. She's not holding a grudge. And he says, sorry about that, for kind of tactless of me. And she says, oh, actually, I kind of like the idea of being a nail technician but not a slave. I didn't realise that was an option. So Fizz and Evelyn are making fun of Tyrone being a kind of boring... predictable kind of a guy, which seems like a setup for him to do something out of the ordinary, like have an affair.
Oh yeah, well he did say that I can be spontaneous. Well, there were a few, warning signs here, because they were saying, oh, you eat fry-ups all the time, so maybe heart attack incoming, or you're so boring and predictable, I'm going to have a salacious affair, one or the other or both.
Tyrone, you're so boring and predictable that you sleep in the same bed with your wife every night, even though she's not really your wife.
He refers to Fizz as the missus today, doesn't he? And somebody
I think
says,
it's a common thing. We've been told off by people before for.
And then somebody, it was the guy who was stealing all the furniture. He refers to Fizz as Tyrone's wife.
Yeah. Alina says to Ty that I've put my name down for a business course, and Fizz comes and says, "Oh, I've got to go for Hope's annual review," which I don't know what this is.
Oh, it's just children who have got special requirements, like I'm an arsonist.
Fire to things.
And you've got an education plan where you have your little special individual targets so that you don't set fire to things anymore. And once a year
good.
You have a meeting
you just
about
double check
it, and
to
you
see
double
if you
check
set fire to anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so she wants to go to this and says, "Can you keep an eye on the shop for me?" So Alina and Tyrone are moving carpets around, and then a man was watching them from a van, and they come back later, and he's just picking the furniture up and putting it in his van. And he says, "Oh, no, Fizz told me yesterday to come and get this stuff because I've bought it, so I'm just taking it with me." And Tyrone's like, "Do you want me to help you put it in the van?" And he's like, "Yeah, I would actually." So he drives off with all of his stuff, and Fizz comes back.
Sorry, I couldn't.
Shut up, Siri.
Fizz comes back and says, "Oh, the meeting went well. No fires whatsoever." And then she finds out this bloke's nicked everything, and she says, "I can't believe this. He was lying." Gary's going to get really mad. Good job he's in prison.
That was basically it, wasn't it?
This is just alienating Fizz and Tyrone from one another and creating a team of Alina and Tyrone to get closer to one another. It really feels like this is heading for an affair. It's really obvious.
Gosh, I really don't want
but
it.
But
so.
the dynamics at play here are that Fizz is mad at Alina and Tyrone. So Tyrone's can then feel alienated from her, but then only can confide in Alina because she was there. And Alina will sort of say, "Yes, Tyrone, you could not have known that he was stealing everything. How would we supposed to know?" And then they get closer, and Fizz gets annoyed.
Fizz is always annoyed at Tyrone for one thing or another, but
stealing all your boss's stuff,
It's I don't think that he would have an affair, but anyway, yeah. We'll see, but nothing to report there particularly. So I'm just going.
Well, it just feels like it's ticking along, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, Fizz going, "Ha, Tyrone, you're boring and predictable, and I'm devaluing the fact that you're a solid, reliable provider for my family."
Yeah.
And also, you and Alina are in my bad books for something that you kind of couldn't. I mean, I think I would have been tricked because I'm an idiot, and I probably would have gone.
I do as well.
It's really nice to sit here and go, "Well, they should have checked and phoned Fizz up," but I really genuinely believe what people tell me most of the time.
I
so
can
you
be
could probably
very gullible.
Trick me, like because we're doing all of our mortgage stuff. We've got this bit of paper from the solicitors going, "Do not be a victim of fraud," and all these things you've got to make sure to do. And I'm so paranoid, I keep looking at it, even though I'm not. There's nothing that is happening at the moment that I need to worry about. But I keep looking at it, going, "Yes, you must make sure that I don't give them £20 million. The wrong people. What will happen?"
Right. Just before we finish, then we did have a little bit of the Billy and Paul story. Sadly, I thought we'd having a reprieve from that this week, but fortunately, it's not much. Billy's
so up himself.
Billy gets a juicer / blender in the post, and it's a Valentine's present that Paul ordered for him a few weeks ago when they were still together.
Yeah, he says that, but then later he says to Paul, you can't win me over with a juicer, you have to let go. Move on with your life. And Paul's like, I bought it ages ago and I forgot to cancel it. Get over yourself, you loser. How about we call it a breaking up present? He should call it a get riddance present. And also, Billy says, I'll accept this present as long as you agree to admit that we're over.
Yeah, which is weird because it looked like he was going to, you know, try and worm his way back into Paul's life, didn't he? Because Summer was saying to him, you're not really over him, are you? But no, we're left with the episode with that bizarre scene with Ed, for some reason, coming and saying, "Oh, you got a story going on here? I'd quite like to be in a story, please." And then Paul's like, "No, I'm going now." So Paul's kind of just left wandering alone, and he shuffles off to the side of the room, and then Billy and Todd give each other funny looks.
Well, also earlier when Paul was being confronted by Billy for giving him a juicer, Todd was standing there. Oh my gosh,
there. What was that? That was the worst loitering I've ever seen.
He's like...
He was poking his head out from the negligees.
Like somebody following you around the shop because they think you're shoplifting, but like standing like really obviously next to a rack of clothes watching you like a hawk. And everybody just ignored him.
He was so clearly there. He was making no attempt to conceal the fact that he was earwigging in on their conversation.
Even, part the clothes and peep through kind of in a comical way. He just kind of stood there gormlessly staring at them.
Yeah, that was poor lurking.
Really poor lurking from somebody who was at one point a semi-pro at this.
Yeah. Anyway, so more for that next week, I suppose. I mean, I'm still very much assuming that Billy and Paul will get back together again, but how long that'll take, I don't know. I'm not really fussed. So, this week then, we feel like we've done a lot of moaning, and it is a real shame, because I went into this week thinking, this I think it's going to be a good week. As I said, they got a trailer for it. The freezer stuff could be quite cool. I was almost caught off guard a bit, because I was thinking, it's going to be the house bidding tonight. That's going to be a bit boring, because we know that Gail's going to get it in the end, or we assume that Gail's going to get it in the end. But then when Monday's episode was actually pretty good, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be an amazing week. I actually thought that the freezer stuff was going to happen on Wednesday, and then when it turned out that it didn't, that was another bit of a disappointment to me. And then it just didn't quite hit the mark for me today. So I'm not going to go too low, because I really, really did think Mondays was fab. But
Mondays was like a 4.5.
It was just for capers.
Wednesdays was like a 1.5, because I can't forgive the plot overriding character in quite such outrageous ways in so many different scenes.
Yeah. So I'm
today that was like a 3.5, I'd say, because I really enjoyed the whacking and the hiding and the...
I'm going to give this...
and the stealing.
I'm going to give this 3 feathers from heaven out of 5. Right down the middle. It had...
Yeah, I think 3 is a fair...
It had potential, but it didn't quite reach it. 3. This is not a 3.5 for me. This is a 3.
I don't know. I kind of want to give it 3.5, because I thought Mondays was great. And I did like the freezer stuff. I wish you hadn't told me it was coming.
I know. I thought you'd seen it as well. I don't know how you didn't see that. It was everywhere.
I didn't see
what,
it.
What are you giving it? 3 or 3.5 what?
Oh, 3.5. What did you say?
I said feathers from heaven.
Oh. I'm going to give it 3.5. 3. No, what did I say? 3.5.
You're going to go 3.5, are you?
3.5 shrimp-faced flatworms.
Nice. Out of 5.
Yeah, what's
character of the week.
Character of the week. You gotta pick one.
It's not, it's not jumping out at me. I'm thinking.
Is it Gail?
No, because I don't think I can give it to Gail or David, because I didn't like their interactions on Monday and Wednesday's episode.
I liked the
Tracy
fact that
was great,
Gail
but she was
triumphed.
I did
and
like
I think
that
was kind of a bit like, I know, yeah, they were sniping and it was weird, and I don't get why Gail would go, yes, eat dog food, David, this will prove your love for me. And it kind of looked like she was giving in by letting him move in the first place just for an apology. But she actually told him to pay for the sinkhole at the end of Wednesday. And I think that's a massive character development for Gail, who's been nothing but a doormat for her kids for the past God knows how long we've been doing the show for.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to give it to Gail because I want to encourage Gail finding her feet and pushing back a little bit, because I don't think that David's humour relies on Gail never saying anything back. And I think Coronation Street, I don't know if they think that's what the joke is, but I just think that there's room for a bit of back and forth with Gail and David, which doesn't happen very much. Because, I mean, Gail and Audrey can snipe back and forward, and it's still fun and entertaining. Yeah. I just don't think that David just needs like a sponge to absorb his insults. I think it's fun if somebody fires them back.
Okay, I am going between Johnny and Debbie this week.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact
Even though Debbie's plans made no sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I did love it when we found out that she was planning to double cross Ray. But just something with the way the story just doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Johnny for the small amount that he was, or Tracy, maybe Tracy, because she was great on Monday. I loved the bidding, but neither was Johnny. But I suppose the story did last for 3 days. Shall I?
Up to you.
I'm going to give it to Johnny, not because, Johnny showed great depth of character or anything, but it's more for the, it intrigued me. I thought that Richard's performance was really, really good. I think he plays the unshaven, dishevelled convict really nicely. Yeah. It piqued my interest. And yeah, Johnny, it's Johnny. And that is it. But I'm hoping, really, really hoping that next week's going to go down better for me. If my predictions are true that this Ray story comes to a climax next week, then it very well could be. But if they flub it, then I could be even more down on it than I am now. I don't know what other storylines are supposed to be here next week, although it looks like the Billy one's going to be on the cards, which would be a bit of a shame. And I don't think we've seen... do you think we're going to get an Leanne next week? It kind of almost felt that setting up that medium feels like...
Continued.
Yeah, in a month's time, she's, £10,000 in debt.
Yeah, and Crystal Moon's got a new car.
Yeah, I just want Alahans every week, really. But I don't know whether we're going to get that quite yet.